Hey, what's going on, everyone? Just before we get going in the episode today, we want to talk about a couple of our buddies that support us. If you don't want to listen to this, skip to about 5 minutes of the podcast. But if you want to get some rad hookups on some rad gear, stay tuned as we talk about a few people that support us. Give us some promo codes to hook you guys up. That's what we like to do. We've had a couple of our buddies on the show recently, starting with Muertos Coffee. They're out of Winters, California. They're firefighter owned, operated, plus proceeds go back to the Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Use promo code JustAnotherFailure at checkout to receive 15% off, plus proceeds from that will go back to our front line and our firefighters out there. Next up, you need a watch, you lose track of time, you want a cool backpack, maybe some CrossFit gear. The boys out at Rockwell Watches in Woodcross, Utah is where they're at. They got you hooked up. Head over to Rockwell Time now. Use promo code FAILURE20 to receive 20% off the entire website. Finally, I got it on right here. You might be needing some sunglasses to protect your eyes while looking good. Our buddies at Heatwave out of San Jose, California got you covered. Use promo code FAIL at checkout and you're going to receive 10% off. Now, it's a little bit wintertime out there. We might have a winter coat getting brought on above the waist, below the belt. You know, it might be somewhere, but Devin, what do we got to hook these guys up with some men's grooming?
Well, listen up, fellas. We're in the thick of winter, like Matt just said, and the storms are brewing. Looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast when you trim the hibernation bush that's taking place in your pants. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products to make sure you're walking around town with beautiful snowballs. You see what they did there?
Oh, wow. Man, real. We're playing on words.
Yep. But Manscaped's here to provide you with the best tools for your grooming experience, offering precision-engineered tools for the family jewels. I mean, we run their products, obviously, because they hook us up. These things are spot on, you know? I mean, you can't get a better product. And there's no better way to start your Manscaped experience than the Performance Package. It comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to carry all your goodies in one little spot. I mean, you might as well have the best tools to do the job, you know what I mean?
We might as well just add the new Refine into that bag, too, to get you smelling good. They got the new cologne out as well.
They have a ton of other amazing men's hygiene products on their website, from disposable mats to trim the pubes to foot deodorant and everything in between. So head over to manscaped.com right now. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code FAIL at checkout. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use promo code FAIL at checkout. And
plus, Manscaped gives back to men's health awareness, and they help raise men's health awareness, which we don't get a lot of coverage. So support the men in your life, support the men's health in your life. Go over, support Manscaped. You're not going to regret it.
Yep, and use promo code FAIL at checkout and make your winter wiener look good.
Oh, nice. And if you like our flags that we run on the lower half, not the upper half, but on the lower half of our podcast, check out the buddies at 30 Seconds Out. Veteran-owned, operated company. Sun Valley, Utah, they got awesome flags. They got awesome gear, swag, patches, stickers. Check them out now. You're not going to regret it.
And, yeah, enjoy the episode, guys.
Have a good one. Here we go.
What up?
All right, here we go.
What's going on? Came in way too hot. Way too hot.
Oh my God. Please tell me you're okay.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Just Another Failure podcast with myself, Devin. My buddy Matt over here, who's clearly not ready and
I'm good.
doing all sorts of weird stuff. But we got a pretty cool guest with us today, Matty boy.
That we do, man. This is we should call him the Huntington Beach bad boy, not Tito Ortiz.
No.
Yeah, we got our own Huntington Beach bad boy.
We got our own Huntington Beach bad boy.
Yeah.
We got my buddy, your buddy as well.
Yeah.
Chad Williams, Navy SEAL from Huntington Beach, California. How's it going, bud?
Great to be on here with you guys.
Actually, after the little training session that we had in the pool, I don't know if I'm going to call this guy my friend. He kind of beat us up.
That was fun. I mean, I was telling Chad about this last night. It kind of goes full circle for my life, getting to know Chad. He came out with a book, Seal of God, which I should have had a copy on the counter. It's in my backpack.
And you should have maybe opened up the intro with that, maybe.
Yeah, an author. No,
I don't know. It's kind of a big deal.
Just another failure.
It's
so
cool.
we don't do everything
See,
chronological.
this is why I do the intros. This is exactly why I do the intros, because I get that info out.
And the guy that's doing video, he could literally just overlay this right now.
If we had a second iPhone going right now.
No, he could just do it. He could take a graphic and boom, put it up.
Phoenix graphic. Seal of God.
Hey, Phoenix. Phoenix, can you come on?
So Chad's an author. Seal of God, you wrote. You finished that in 2013?
About 12, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I initially found Chad's book before I ever knew who Chad was. I kind of really hadn't even lived in Southern California. My dad had just finished reading, I think it was called SEAL Team 6, and I was looking for a book for him for Christmas, and I ran across your book online, and it was Seal of God, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool book. My dad read it, and then he told me, he's like, you got to read that. And I was like, cool. Ended up, a couple years later, I end up at Harvest, Greg Laurie's church, and you were, I think, were just leaving the high school ministry when I kind of came in there. I remember you spoke one night, and I was like, that's the guy that wrote the book that I read. I was like, that's really cool. I remember I texted my dad. I was like, Dad, remember that book? That guy Chad, he goes to the churches I go to. And he's like, no way, see if you could sign a book. And then another year went by, I got you to sign a copy.
So you fanboyed hard on him?
Dude, I did. It was really funny because Chad used to sit near me in church pretty often, in the same section. So he was always kind of sitting near me. I remember even one time my dad was like, hey, you should let me know if Chad's ever here. I'd like to say hi to him. I was like, oh, he's actually that guy right there.
Oh yeah, you see him? He's actually 3 rows in front of us.
It's that guy right there. And I introduced my dad to Chad one time, and then another couple years went by, and then recently I got into a Bible study with Chad, and now I got to go train with Chad. So full circle, I went from fanboy to having a buddy now. And
workout partner.
Yeah, a workout partner. So yeah, the other day we asked to train with him, and he did drown proof training because that's normal.
Well, for I guess for a Navy SEAL, yeah, but for us normal folk, no, not normal.
So, but you said that was your first time doing this in a while, right? Pool training? You haven't pool trained with people in a while.
Yeah, especially tying your hands behind your back and feet together and jumping in the water. That's one of those things where it's I thought I checked that box and I'm all done with that. But,
Not the t-shirt.
Some of the guys, they wanted to experience what that's like. And then we got into a game that we call in the SEAL teams underwater football. And that's a good one.
Underwater. I like how he's so happy. That's a good one. So
hopefully what you'll learn during this podcast is Chad has a very sick sense of humor, and one, you can't get him tired. Two, the more pain that he inflicts on you, the funnier that he thinks this is.
I don't even know if I want to even say the score either, because it still hurts my feelings.
We had 4 against 2 in the pool, and he also brought Aquaman over here, brought another, whoever Aquaman's sidekick is.
My buddy Bryce, and he had a broken hand.
Dude, don't make us sound any worse than we already are, alright?
So yes, Bryce. Where's Bryce from?
He's local. He spent a little bit of time out in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's an MMA fighter.
He is.
Yeah. And is he fight pro?
No, amateur pro.
Amateur
he
pro.
fights out of CSW, combat submission wrestling. Yeah.
So Chad brought Bryce over.
So those two were on a team, and then you basically had 4 average Joes going against them.
Cobra
So-
Kai kicked our butt in this.
Needless to say, we kind of threw a donut. Kind of got a shutout there for us. Didn't really put any points on
We
the
don't
board.
have to talk about the score, but so the game. Now you said we were playing with a 50-pound medicine ball.
Yeah.
And kind of walk us through what's the point of the game? How do we score points? What's the point here? What's our deal for our viewers?
Yeah. So the legit SEAL team version of it is a lot more brutal. And so we go into what we call our combat tank, which is just an aggressive way to say swimming pool. And we'd be playing.
way cooler.
Hey, swimming pool, but make it SEAL-like.
Yeah.
Combat
swimmer tank.
Combat swimmer tank.
Love it.
And so we take a 45-pound plate, typically, throw it in the pool, about 15 feet deep, and then you start with, a platoon or half a platoon of guys on one end of the pool, and another on the other end, and that plate's sitting there in the middle of the pool. And in that situation, it's pretty much anything goes. If somebody grabs that weight underwater, and the goal is to try and take that weight to the other side and get it up on the other side of the pool while the whole opposing team is trying to stop you, anything goes. If you want to start rear naked choke holding people go for it. And so it almost always turns into fights. I mean,
No.
usually the way the game ends is a couple guys got to go and get stitched up. All right, so it's very aggressive. We did it with a 50-pound ball, 5 extra pounds, but it was only attack the ball, not the person. And so you're holding your breath underwater, and you try and travel this ball all the way to the other side while the opposing team is doing everything they can, attacking the ball to try and stop you from making that forward movement. And you got to breathe. So,
Got to breathe at some point.
Yep.
And we were only in an 11-foot deep pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
the worst part is, though, is that, like, we had 4 people.
We did.
And every time we would come up to take a breath, fish guys would just take the ball right back to where we, ran it to the other side. And it was just a constant battle of, like, here, let's drag it right here. All we have to do is get it up that wall. And then it was like, nah, we're going to take it back the other way.
And not to rub salt in your wounds, like I would go down and then Aquaman would come after me and then wave to the camera while you're getting attacked by him at the same time. He's attacking you and waving and doing a little cameo down there.
Yeah.
And then he'd still be down there while I was taking a breath.
Yeah, it was a tough look for us. It was a tough look for us.
Just another failure.
Just another fail. We'll have to come back again. We need a point. So we didn't score a point.
Yeah. They scored like 300.
Yeah, it turned into every time we thought we had good defense going, all of a sudden just someone magic.
Well, dude, that was the worst part. Is like I was getting so frustrated because I kept scoring. I'm like, that's it. I'm just gonna run defense. I'm just gonna make sure they don't score anymore. And he'd come to the wall and he'd just be looking up from the bottom, staring at me, and I'm kind of just ducking my face underwater with the goggles on so I could see him. And I would be like, okay, he's right there, and I'm just gonna hold him there. And then I'd be like, all right, I'm running out of breath. And like, dude, that second he'd be all burp, shoot right up, and I'm like. And he's like, I saw you take your breath. I knew I had a shot there. I'm like, that's not fair, dude.
It also didn't count that like we barely could get the ball out of the pool over the ledge where he's shooting free throws from like half court.
Right? He was. Yes.
Which you saved our buddy Ben's life.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, you did. You did.
You almost murdered somebody's head into the Kobe.
Yeah, he could have died. For real.
Like legitimately though, this 50-pound ball was heading for his head, and I randomly like put my hand up, and it just hit my hand and somehow slowed down enough to not murder that guy.
And it's not just the 50-pound ball; it's all the inertia that comes with it.
Yeah,
and
'cause
his
you
head
hopped it,
was
too.
right next to the
concrete.
edge, the concrete.
Yeah.
And so it would have put his head right into the edge, and the guy was oblivious the whole time. I'm like, dude, you just saved his life, and meanwhile he's just like trying to breathe.
Fish out of water. Fish out of water.
I feel like half the time, like that's all we were doing was just sitting there gulping air. Just
And then we'd be trying to catch our breath, and we had Dad on the other side. 10, 9, 8.
we're on the other side too, trying to come up with like
A game plan.
yeah, a game plan. And they're like, we can hear you.
We're not very smart in our
Yeah.
combat pool. Our combat pool wasn't as well. So.
Our combat pool is the community pool. We
So
don't have a cool name for it.
Sometimes
sorry.
you say you play with an 80-pound ball too. Like you
Yeah.
put a 50 and an 80-pounder at
Right.
the bottom of the pool.
Yep, that's a tough one to get up for sure.
If you threw an 80-pound ball in there, I probably just would have like went back to my truck and left.
Next time though, I think we'll go with a 25.
Yeah.
25 is a lot more manageable. Everyone can throw it. It actually gets a lot more interesting when people could chuck that thing around, because you could throw that from basically halfway out.
Yeah.
And so that's when you're actually having to get up in the air and pull some Jordan stuff to block it.
Dikembe Mutombo just knocked in my house.
You know, it was fun because you ran us through a couple other scenarios out there. Our buddy Ben Corson wanted to come out and like really try some drown proofing too, so we got to kind of coincide with him. But you know, just walking the ball across the pool underneath water, and then coming up and throwing it, just practicing throwing the ball, hands behind your back, bobbing, drown proofing. That stuff was cool, but little do we know, like we were going to be in the pool for 4 hours with you that day. And dude, the next day, like I was legit, like really, really sore. Like you kind of figure every time you do one of the like go down, pick the ball up, and then lunge all the way up and pull it out of the pool, it's like a full body workout.
And plus we are kind of wrestling with each other, quite a bit, trying to shove each other underwater.
Yeah, he's the king of just holding down his side because he'll just splash in the face and then just push your head down in the
Dude,
water
that
and
was
splash
my
in the face.
favorite. That was my favorite tactic too. When we were like, they'd be trying to score, and I'm like looking, and he would just be splashing me with water, just like.
Now, if you read Chad's
You guys
book-
should definitely roll some B-roll of just, what we were doing that day. As we're talking about it, I'm
Yeah.
sure you can find some of those shots.
I definitely have these shots. Yeah, we'll add that to the clips here for the YouTube stuff. we're gonna cut these in because
We're gonna look like fools.
and next time I got 2 more cameras. I wish I would have known because I'm gonna sink one next time to kind of shoot the whole course from underwater. Then I'll have another one that'll be up. So
Good idea.
we'll get like way better angles, better. And I had the wrong lens on there, which I was really bummed at. I looked at it post, and I had a narrower lens and a wider lens. So I'll definitely be getting better footage next time. But I do have stuff that we could add to this. But if you know Chad, or if you have read his book, or if you're gonna read his book, you kind of know that Chad's like a little instigator. Like your whole life, you've been kind of an instigator.
Dude, after reading that book, you kind of like to, you like to start a little something.
I like to get people doing things they feel uncomfortable doing, for sure.
That's funny, dude.
And that's kind of been your life story, like writing the book. And Devin just finished the book, and
By the way, that was probably the first book I've read since high school.
Wow, thank you.
So-
It's a huge compliment, I think.
Yeah.
I like how you. I like how you.
That should be a compliment because I don't know how to read.
I like how you talked about this the other night because we'll get into some other topics why this came up. But you said a lot of people, if the name didn't give it away, Seal of God, people would read your book and be like, man, the first part of your book was great, and then all of a sudden at the end, like you really just brought your faith into the whole book, and they would always tell you, like, if you opened the book with your faith, they probably would have never read the book, but the way that you opened it really changed the dynamic on how they finished the book and like really got themselves into it. So that was kind of a unique way. And like, why did you do that when you wrote this book? Like being an author, like what brought you to that kind of monologue?
I think it was kind of a natural flow because since it's a biography, I'm just kind of taking people through life from, I started off with some of the earlier memories, not spending a whole lot of time there because we're trying to get somewhere with this. We're trying to get through some of the SEAL stuff, the SEAL training, the mentorship that I had with very extraordinary Navy SEAL Scott Helvenston, who tragically died overseas just days before I went in Fallujah, Iraq, as he was ambushed and hung upside down from the Euphrates River Bridge. There's a lot to tell there. And it was as I came to faith after I was already in the SEAL teams, but the faith stuff comes in. So that's just kind of where it ended up landing, in my life. And I think it really did work out that way, though, because like you said, if you open up with the faith-based stuff in the very beginning, someone's probably not going to give it, more than a paragraph or two and then shut the book. And so the funny thing is that a lot of people that have read the book and end up writing me afterwards, they tell me, hey, I'm so glad that you brought that stuff up later on because to be honest with you, I never would have given the book a chance. And I'm like, really? The whole Seal of God thing wasn't kind of a
the title,
giveaway?
title didn't really
That didn't do it for you, huh? I've also had people write me, and you can find this even like on Amazon reviews. Like, yeah, the book was great until he got around to the whole God thing. It's like, well, didn't you know what you're buying when it's a Seal of God? I mean...
How often do you respond to your writers? Will you respond to them often, or like on Amazon, will you comment back?
No, I never have.
Okay.
No, no. And then on YouTube, I've got a lot of YouTube videos out there, and a lot of them are faith-based and kind of controversial things. And I might have replied to some things like in the past. It's probably been years since I've replied to, any kind of negative criticism or gotten into it. But I used to engage people, quite a bit. And I've gotten super thick skin over it, which is good. Like, it doesn't get to me anymore. Yeah. I get a good laugh out of some of the things that they write.
That's good.
I mean, you being a SEAL too, I'm sure you just have every SEAL that I've known, because I have a few buddies from different teams and stuff, every time I meet you guys, there's always a commonality amongst you guys, and especially post teams, but nothing breaks you guys anymore. You guys are really afraid of nothing.
Well, you get broken down so hard in the training, it's hard to have anything that's worse than that.
You definitely have that as a point of reference, and that's one of the purposes of Hell Week, which is the most difficult part of SEAL training. The idea behind that is this is going to weed out anybody that doesn't have that sort of mental toughness to where they're willing to die before they quit. But it doesn't only just weed out people, it also does something for those that make it through. Now you have this as a point of reference so that whatever you face in the future, you can always say, well, this isn't Hell Week. I've gotten through something tougher. And it doesn't mean that that is the most difficult thing you could possibly go through, in your life, because perhaps there are more difficult things, but it's something to work with. And so all of us, at least to some degree, I think, have that toughest thing that we went through, and we should constantly be comparing that maybe to whatever it is that you're facing that's difficult. And maybe that next difficult thing is your next point of reference as you move forward from there. I don't know.
So you're saying a YouTube comment that's not going to break you?
No.
Someone.
Oh yeah, how did we
telling
get here?
Yeah.
YouTube comments.
Someone telling you
Yeah.
that you suck on YouTube. That's not going to break you down.
And I love that too, because I mean, a lot of our name from the show, we've talked about this in the past, comes from that, right? You know, there's always that, you know, we can call it a PNR, a point of no return, or we can put whatever it is. Like, we've all kind of gotten to that point, whether it's our own personal hell week. That's like, hey, I've already been through this part of life. That sucked, right? And if you haven't been there and you're gonna be there, it's gonna suck, right? But you're gonna get through this. Like, you just have to keep your mind going through that. And so I like that aspect, and that's why I've always loved, you know, the teams and stuff like that, just because how you guys face adversity is kind of that, like, I'm failing right now, but I'm not giving up.
Right.
And that's how you guys got through Buds. Like, you guys failed, but the 17 of you guys, 17.
13 out of the 173 of that
13 of-
original
yeah.
class number.
And I mean, you guys were the guys that didn't ring the bell. And so at the end of the day, sure, you guys failed, but you never gave up and you never quit. And that's like one of the most admirable things. Like, when it gets tough, you guys didn't quit. You pressed on.
Right. Yeah. So for those that are listening, maybe you don't know, it's a volunteer program. You know, you don't have to be there. The instructors are always reminding you of that. In fact,
That was one of my favorite parts. Just quit. Just quit.
yeah,
Just
they're
do it.
rooting against you.
Yeah.
Just
you know
do
you
us a
want to,
favor.
just do it.
And you get no positive feedback from them. It's always negative, like enforcement. Like, you don't belong here. I've seen this before. You're going to quit. Do yourself a favor. Now do me a favor. Stop wasting our time. Stop wasting the taxpayers' money. And so really what they want, though, and I've been on the other side of this, I finished off as an instructor,
Yeah.
is there certain guys in your mind that secretly you're rooting for? And you might be even more
Tough on them almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because what you want out of them is you want somebody that can rise to the occasion without having to be cheerleading them. Because they're not going to have that cheerleader, you know, in combat when things are really awful. And so no matter how bad I really do secretly want this guy to make it, I got to make it really hard on him, because he has to have that within himself to be able to get up off the ground without somebody rooting him on and cheering him on. So it's not like the arena, you know, in sports where it's like, come on, man, you can do it, clapping you on.
Let's go.
Yeah, you got to be able to do this when everything really is against you.
Yeah. That's absolutely gnarly. I kind of want to go into the beginning of you, like, going into SEAL training, like your whole start into that. I mean, if you haven't read the book, like, what made you want to become a SEAL? What made you have that, you know, mindset of, oh, I'm gonna go put myself through this?
Obviously, the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Clearly.
Yeah, that moment where he jumped off the Jeep into the water over that bridge.
And Chad, big Charlie
Big
Sheen.
Charlie Sheen fan.
Hashtag awesome.
He's only got one speed. Go.
Go.
Man, you know, it's not like a lot of people think, and the way I got there is probably different than a lot of other guys. You know, people assume sometimes it must have taken a whole lot of forethought. It's a big decision you're making, and so, you know,
Yeah, sorry, and to cut you off, because the way that, through the book, the way that you talk about coming up with the idea was phenomenal.
that's just how it played out.
Just sitting in your truck, having a little, you know,
Still got that same truck outside right now to this day too. I love that thing.
having a little smoke in the truck, chilling, hanging
Yeah.
out, and you're just like, you know what? Let's be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
But what was that inspiration? Kind of where you were going into, like, why you got there?
I was failing all my classes at a local community college. All my peers were passing me by. I was pretty much at the end of my money, at the end of my weed, and
My weed.
yeah.
That was actually the real,
That was the real
deciding
reason.
factor.
It's
He's like,
man,
damn, I got more
another
weed.
bag right now.
And it hit me as I'm sitting there in the school parking lot. It's time to take finals. Like, for whatever reason, it took that moment to sink in. Like, whoa. The way I thought about it was, I'm turning out to be a loser. And then I thought, I'm turning out to be the kind of guy that no young man wants to be. I never wanted to be, you know, because I would get that from my dad, at least when I was young. Like, son, you could do anything you want to do. You know, you got the potential. And so for a while, I was putting my energy into baseball. I got really good at baseball. Did all the, you know, all-star teams, but then I got burned out on it. And then I got really into skateboarding. I got sponsored by Vans shoes. I was doing some competing for a while, but then I kind of got burned out on it. And so now I'm not doing anything. I'm a loser. And I really thought I lost my identity with that. And so I felt like my back was up against the wall to the point where maybe I operate better there. The greater the need, the greater the result. And so I felt like I had this great need to get out of the position I was in. I don't like this feeling. I want to do something significant with my life. I don't want to live a wasted life. And so I just start brainstorming. I want to do something great. So what does that look like? And so there's some ideas that popped in my head. Top 2, number 1, Alaskan crab fisherman. At the time,
He just wanted to be on Deadliest Catch. That's all he wanted.
Yep. I was doing some fishing, and
Captain Phil.
that might have actually planted the seed for me looking back on it, because I used to work on sport fishing boats out of Long Beach here, Pier Point Landing. There's a boat called the Tornado, and so we would do this overnight fishing. Sometimes we'd find ourselves out at San Clemente Island, and you'd see the SEALs training out there. And so I'd be pulling up or dropping anchor and see the SEALs training out there, and it kind of maybe planted a seed a little bit, because I remember telling one of the other deckhands, I'd like to go do that someday, and he told me you could never do that, and that just made me want to do it that much more. And then I'm sitting there in my truck thinking, Alaskan crab fisherman, I know about that from fishing here. That's next level fishing. Or why can't I go join the military? And not just that, I want to be a part of the most elite. I want to do what those guys on San Clemente Island were doing. I want to be a Navy SEAL. And so once I finally had that, I have a target now in my crosshairs. That was my big problem. I don't know what I was aiming at. And when you don't know what you're aiming at, you don't just pull a trigger hoping you're going to hit a target. Like, that certainly doesn't work when you're shooting overseas. You don't close your eyes and just hope you hit the enemy. And so sometimes the most difficult part is like acquiring that sight picture. And once you have that thing in your crosshairs, now the easy thing is just squeeze that trigger and pull. And so now that I had this goal or this target in my sights, I'm like, I'm all in. So much to the point where I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be a Navy SEAL, you know what that means? I don't have to bother going to class anymore. So I started that truck up and took off out of that school parking lot, and I was all in.
Now, I remember the book, you talk to your dad, and you sit down, you talk to your dad. Had you talked to a Navy recruiter prior to this, you going to talk to your dad, or did you do that after you told your parents that you wanted to become a SEAL?
I think it was pretty immediate that I shared with I talked to my dad first. The Navy recruiter definitely came much later.
Okay.
So I talked to my dad. I tell him, look, I got bad news, good news. So he knows this is not going to be good. And I'm kind of like, which one do you want first? And he's like, what's the bad news? I'm like, all right, the bad news. That time you thought I was going to class, I kind of been ditching a little bit, surfing a little. And I'm not passing any of my classes. And he's just doing this whole face palm. Like, oh, man. And then he's like, oh, the good?
Hold on. This is
I'm
going
like,
to get better, though.
Bring it together.
Yep.
Bring
It's
it back
okay,
around.
Dad, because I have a plan. I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. And now he has this look. And you could put yourself in his shoes for a moment here. Here's your son that, he hasn't demonstrated the discipline to make it through the local community college. He basically gets interested in things and gets over them so quickly. And so he's telling me, it's like, son, it's not like joining the military. Like, joining the military is not like playing ball or skateboarding or going to the college where you decide you're over it, you could just stop. It says, if you join the military, maybe then you find out, oh, this isn't for me. Or suppose you quit.
I don't actually like this, but I'm here for a couple years, so that sucks.
Exactly. And that does happen to a lot of
I'm
people.
sure it does.
And so he's thinking, man, this is just the flavor of the month for Chad, and he made a big mistake driving off. He should go back. And, he's telling me he got a voicemail from, one of the teachers. This is like a week later that they say they'll let me come back in and take some tests, and maybe they can give me a C or D, get some kind of credit for it. I'm like, no, I'm all in on this. And so he's concerned. He's thinking this isn't real. And so he invites me in one day after days go by into his room. He says, you really want to do this, huh? You want to be a SEAL? I'm like, yeah, Dad, I want to be a SEAL. He goes, great. Well, I set up a workout for you with the Navy SEAL. Check out my computer screen. And I'll never forget, as I'm looking over at the computer, I'm thinking to myself, my dad doesn't know any Navy SEAls, right? Like,
How'd you get in contact with
right.
this guy, Dad?
Oh, yeah,
How'd you
Uncle
do it,
so-and-so, he was a SEAL, right? Like, who is this guy? And so I look over at the screen.
Craigslist ad. He was just like, Navy SEAL guy, can you help me?
Who knows how it could happen like that. Because basically he did Google it. And I look at this email, and this email says, from this Navy SEAL, can Chad come out and play tomorrow? And so now I just know this isn't real. I'm like, Dad,
You're like,
come
Dad,
on.
who is this man?
Chad's like, there's
Yeah.
a free candy man somewhere out there.
Seriously. Like, how did someone pull the wool over my dad's eyes like this? He's a smart guy. Play? Dad, it says play? You're range, like, you met some guy on the internet. He says he wants to play with me, and you're sending me off to go meet up with him in a parking lot somewhere. And he goes, no. He's a SEAL. I'm like, you can't trust everything someone tells you on the internet, Dad.
I got a good hunch with this guy.
Right.
No, I got a good feeling. Yeah, no. This is gonna turn out great. You'll see.
Right. And so he's like, no, he's a SEAL. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go meet up with them. Well, as it turns out, there's more of a conversation he had with this man on the phone prior to that email that I didn't know about at the time. But I'll fill in the people listening on the backstory on that. So he's on the phone with him before that email, and he's telling him basically like, hey, look, here's the deal. My son, he wants to be a Navy SEAL, but he has no idea what he's signing up for. He does not know what he's getting involved in. And so I'm just wondering if you could do me a really big favor. Would you be willing to meet up with my son? And what I'm asking you to do, I need you to crush him.
Make him hate his life so
Right?
he doesn't do this.
Like basically make him quit.
Yeah.
Like beat this desire of becoming a SEAL out of him. And so he didn't get a response on the phone. The guy wanted to think about it. And then he sends off this email, and that's what "Can Chad come out and play tomorrow" meant. So off I go, Oceanside, California, meeting up with, air quotes, Navy SEAL in a beach parking lot.
With Craigslist response, Navy SEAL guy. Okay.
Weird purple van in the parking lot.
Had a free candy spray painted on it.
That seems legit.
Dad, I don't want to do it anymore.
He had Navy SEAL training. Navy SEAL prep course.
Yeah, a Navy SEAL come out and play.
Yeah. So he had this bouquet of roses, and he came up to me, and no, I'm just kidding.
He walked out and said, "You got a pretty mouth, boy." Now wait a minute.
And so he says, "You Chad?" I'm like this is like really my first encounter with military. You know, I can't think of any military guys I've met before this. I'm like, yes, sir. He goes, all right, Bubba, come on over here. So I'm like, Bubba from that point forward. And so he's got me drop down doing some calisthenics, some push-ups, sit-ups. He's got this pull-up bar he can arrange to hang from anywhere. So we're doing pull-ups outside the beach bathrooms. And there's another guy that was there. He's a Marine that's going to be re-enlisting. He wants to be a Navy SEAL. His name was Seth. And so I'm kind of sizing myself up, and I'm hanging in there, but I know he hasn't really pushed us yet. And then he says, all right, Bubba, why don't you and Seth, you guys go for a run out into the wetlands. Seth, you lead the way. 15 minutes into it, Bubba, you take over. You go as fast as you want to go. And I'm going to catch up with you guys. I got this gear. I'm going to clean up and, throw it back in my truck. But 15 minutes in, I'll be there with you guys.
You're like, bro, we're going to be a month ahead of you. What do you mean?
Exactly. So Seth, he's leading the way. And this guy, I mean, he's a truck of a dude. He's the kind of guy that, I mean, he's probably got to turn sideways to walk through a door. He's the kind of
meat bus.
Exactly. He's great kind of guy to have around if you really just need to like plow somebody over. Just that brute physical force.
Need to block a doorway.
Yep.
Yeah.
That also means he pretty much runs like an elephant. You know, he's slow. He's like a rhino. He's trotting along, and I'm just waiting for that 15 minutes on my G-Shock to go, and I'm going to burn this guy.
You're honking.
Do you still know Seth by any chance?
We haven't stayed connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of a big split up, you know, after what happened with Scott. And so, we're going down this trail. And I take off on him, leaving him in the dust. And I don't even know what the final destination is. I just know 15 minutes of the run, keep running away from the ocean, out into the wetlands, basically away from civilization, nowhere. And so I'm looking back, and I don't see Seth anymore. And I'm looking back, and I don't see this Navy SEAL guy. And as I keep running and looking back, I start thinking to myself, like, hey, maybe I'm too fast for this Navy SEAL. He can't catch up on the run.
What's up there, Mr. Navy SEAL guy? Can't hang?
And in that moment, I still remember the names of my friends that I was going to be bragging to, right? Mark and Brian, how I beat this Navy SEAL on a run. And I look over my shoulder one more time, and that's when I see him coming down this trail. And I mean, he's coming down this trail like something out of Terminator 2, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Hey, he's just
exactly. That guy, the T-1000 that morphs into knife hands and chases down the moving vehicle.
And he just...
That's the Navy SEAL coming down the trail like a T-1000. Knife hands and all. He's closing the distance. I'm running so fast. I don't know if you guys know this feeling where you literally cannot spit at the wrong moment because it will throw off the whole breathing rhythm. I'm giving it everything I got, and he just catches right up to me, passes me. I'm thinking, that's it. There he goes. Nope. Then I'm greeted by him just planting down, pivoting. I'm coming into him full speed now. He's full stop, and then he puts me to a full stop with his fist going into my stomach. And I mean, I'm just impaled, clotheslined. And I'll never forget the feeling of just the wind.
It's like some Dragon Ball Z where you
Right.
wrapped around his fist.
Yes, power 7,000. Just
Super Saiyan mode.
And so I see sky. My back hasn't even hit the ground yet, but I already know the feeling of the wind knocked out of me and then poofing her up all around me.
In the back of his head, he's like, who is this guy off Craigslist that my dad found? I'm going to get murdered now.
And that's exactly what entered my mind. I'm thinking, because, people talk about how your life flashes before your eyes before you die. I'm thinking of so many things in an instant of weightlessness. I'm literally thinking, some guy my dad met off the internet. Now he's got me on the ground in the wetlands. I'm thinking, child predator. Like, this is happening. And it doesn't stop there. He jumps on top of me then. And I mean, he is ragdolling me. I am going for a ride. I still remember the sound of the threads of my shirt, like ripping as he's throwing me around, spit flying out as he's screaming in my face and just feeling it rain down, hitting me in the cheek, the forehead. And the guy's going ballistic. Like, I don't understand the words that are coming out.
He had one of those Middle Eastern energy drinks, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so...
Had a little extra in there, huh? That's why he was running so fast. Yeah, that's super speed boost.
Then I hear these words, though. These do transpire. He says, you want to be a Navy SEAL, you better stay 3 paces behind me. And just something clicked in that moment right there. For a moment, it was like time stopped. I had this clarity of thought. The pain lifted. And I realized if I quit right now, I just knew it. I'll forever be a quitter. Like, that's different. You can fail. Doesn't mean you'll always be a failure. But there's just a certain point where it's like, if you just keep quitting, you're really gonna, you're gonna iron that into history. And so I just knew, like, this is the moment right here. This is gonna affect the trajectory of the rest of my life. And so I knew in SEAL training I was gonna have to push that hard. But now I'm being called upon at a time that, I didn't know it was gonna happen, but it's happening now. So he gets up and he says the same exact thing one more time. He says, 3 paces behind me, and he turns and takes off. And so I literally had the wind knocked out of me still.
He's still getting out.
I'm doing the weird noise. Exactly. After running as fast as I could. So I need air, and I'm still doing the growling and the growling and trying to go after him. And so it took everything that I had. And looking back, after having gone through SEAL training, I can actually say that was by far the most difficult singular workout I'd ever gone through. I should call it a beatdown session, this encounter with this Navy SEAL.
Torture.
Scott Elvinston. And we finally get to a point where he decides he's going to, wrap this thing up. I'm dying trying to stay on his heels. And so he circles up, and he's not saying anything to me. I'm looking down, just trying to gather myself. And he's pacing back and forth, and I'm kind of noticing that he looks like he wants to fight me. And so I'm thinking, what's the deal with this guy, Like,
what did I get myself into?
Yeah,
who did you find on the internet, Dad?
You have some kind of flashback on the trail, He like freaked out on me, and now he looks like he wants to fight me. So I'm having this like self-dialogue in my mind, like, don't set this guy off, no direct eye contact, just
tell him his shoes look nice. Do something. I
Right.
don't know.
Chad went from bragging to his buddies how he beat a Navy SEAL, like,
Exactly.
What
Now-
carton jar are they going to see me on here?
Are those ASIC running shoes? Those are nice. Where did you get those? Please don't punch me in the mouth.
I'm just trying to keep track of this guy with my peripherals, all right? Don't look him in the eyes. And he breaks this really awkward tension by asking me, he says, hey, if we would have got another mile or two, would you have stayed with me? And I just told him exactly what came to mind. I said, Scott, I'll die before I quit. Well, he gets this big old smile on his face, completely changes his demeanor. He goes, great, you want to meet up again for another workout tomorrow? And now I'm thinking, definitely a flashback. He's back, but what was that all about?
This guy's also
Clapped him back into reality.
This guy might be a schizophrenic. I don't know. He's got multiple personalities now.
And I wasn't going to address it. I just acted like the whole thing didn't even happen.
This is
Shake your head,
normal.
nod.
This is normal. This is normal. Nothing weird going on here.
I would love to come back. Please don't kill me. This is great.
Oh man, I love because I talked to you about that story not too long ago at a beach bonfire. That's such an incredible story. And Scott, like the stuff you got to go through with him, I mean,
Yeah.
he became a huge influence in your life, and you talk about it in the book. And now you talk about, because you ended up in Iraq on the same road where it happened with Scott.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Was there anything prior to you going through your head, like when you were on that road, on that mission?
So I was on the road that leads into the road that he was going into, and one of the signs that I saw as we're driving down this highway on a final operation that we're on, like, this is the last operation. We have no time left on the calendar to do anymore. And so in my mind, I'm kind of celebrating. Like, you know what that means? Just a matter of days from now, I'll be back in Huntington Beach surfing in the ocean. And so we just got one more to go. Business as usual. And I see this sign, Fallujah, Iraq, in Arabic. And I'd seen it before, but it never crossed my mind the way it crossed my mind on this last night. It's like, wait a minute, I wonder if that sign was still standing, when Scott was over here. And that means that he would have had to have looked at that, because that's the last big sign you see before you go pulling into Fallujah. And then I thought, wow, what a trip. Not that many years have gone by. Good chance it's the same sign. I'm staring at it like thousands of miles away at the time when that had happened to him. And I'm looking at a TV screen, him hanging from a bridge. And now here I am over here in this place. And little did he know that was going to happen as he looked at that sign. And little did I know, or my team, that as I'm staring at that, basically we're being set up in the same scenario. So Scott and the guys that he was working with Blackwater as a private contractor. They'd gotten ambushed, and they killed everyone that was in the vehicle with Scott, him and 3 others, ripped him out of the vehicles, videotaped everything that they were doing to him. And I'm watching this on television at home one day as the screen first pops up with him smiling on TV. I'm like, what's Scott doing on TV? I thought he's supposed to be overseas in Iraq. I just got off the phone with him just days earlier. He's telling me, all right, Junior, I'm about to go do this thing, referring to going off to Iraq. And he says, I just want you to know something I've never told anybody I've ever trained before. He says, I know you're going to make it through SEAL training. And so I've got the confidence from him. I can't wait to make him proud, prove him right. He's reminding me of the timeline. He's only going to be gone a couple months, and then I'm going to do boot camp. That's a couple months. And by the time I get done with boot camp, he'll already be back in San Diego, and he says, we're going to see him make it through. So we get off the phone. All right, Scott, can't wait to see you when you get back. So he's got his thing, and I got my thing. And so I'm just getting up one day, getting ready to just train for the day, and TV's on, and there's Scott on TV, smiling. And he's been on TV plenty of times because he's this phenomenal athlete. He's always getting invited on. He was on one of the programs he was on. It's called Man vs. Beast, where he raced a chimpanzee through an obstacle course and pulled the head of this monkey on monkey bars, okay? So, I mean...
Yeah, what's good, monkey? Exactly. Bars are named after you, and this guy beat you.
He's
what
a
up?
freak of nature.
And so, the surprise...
He was shredded, too. I saw pictures of him.
He's a world champion pentathlete. He was the fastest Navy SEAL on the SEAL training obstacle course.
Yeah.
He was the youngest man to ever make it through SEAL training. He completed it at 17 years old.
Unit.
Yeah, so you want to talk about a guy that's gone through some adversity. How do you become a SEAL at 17? Well, you got to go through a pretty rough life leading up to that. So he grew up in over like a dozen different foster homes, constantly getting moved around. The military's like, we'll take that kid. And so completed everything by the time he was 17 years old. And so it's not a surprise he's on TV. It's just like the surprise was I didn't know about this one. So as I'm looking at this smiling picture of him, then I look at the lower part of the screen, and that's where I see Scott's birth date followed by a dash, and it says March 31st, 2004. And I'm just not able to put that together. And just as I'm beginning to like put that together, what that means, I didn't have the full opportunity. It just switches from smiling image to graphic video footage, and it's him. And so I'm looking at this video footage now, this angry Iraqi mob. They're over his body, and they're beating and wailing away with rods, and they're just doing everything they can to just try and mutilate him. And they find rope and wrap it around his legs and the others, and they go dragging them through the streets of Fallujah, hang them upside down from the Euphrates River Bridge, set their bodies on fire, and then they turn to the camera with a message for everyone living in America, chanting over and over in Arabic, and it says it in the subtitles in English, Fallujah is the graveyard of Americans. Fallujah is the graveyard of Americans. So, pretty needless to say, I'll never have the words to describe, like, what all of the surrounding moments, that whole just part of life was very surreal. Went through all the different emotions of, sadness and anger and denial. Like maybe he had a covert operation, had to fake a death, but at the same time, I know exactly what I saw. I know him. And I kind of landed on revenge. That was like what I landed on. And revenge is a fuel. Not a healthy fuel to live off of, but that was my thing, is I'm going to go through with this. But a big part of the reason I want to go through with it is I want to be one of the guys that goes over there and literally rips the hearts and esophaguses out of these guys that did this to Scott.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, after reading the book, it's like you got blinders on. Like, it was like, that was all that was on your mind was like, I have to go do this so that I can go get back at those dudes.
Because that was like a week. It was really close to you going to Buds.
Yeah, that happened March 31st, and I was going into boot camp, into the Navy, by April 18th.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were 2 weeks prior to just normal boot camp. And then when did you go into Buds? Later that year?
Yeah, so I ended up graduating Buds, or graduating SQT, which is when you become a SEAL, I think December 2005. Buds would have been at some point earlier, I think, or later. I don't know when. It was Buds Class 254. And I know I went through Hell Week in February.
Well,
Yeah,
dude, I
when it's cold.
want to talk about like your whole Buds kind of setup, because that was
Ginsu Master.
absolutely insane. But I mean, like, going back to that, you kind of had a step up on everybody else because you kind of already had a lot of the training from Scott. So you kind of had a little step forward on most people, and you had to go through the boot camp, which everybody has to go to
Right.
first, and you were just like, whatever, this is pointless, kind of, but you
Yeah.
had to go through it. And
Little did I know, the first Navy SEAL that I ever met was the highest
like
bar. He was the
dude.
highest bar.
He was the dude.
And I thought he was just like the ante-up. I thought all SEALs are like him. But every other SEAL after him, in terms of just like, you know, they're just different, you know, quite a bit in every way. He definitely was the pinnacle. He was a very special one. And so he got me very prepared, like you said. Like I had a leg up for sure when I'm going on runs and swims with these guys. Like I was always behind Scott and just suffering to hang with him. And if I could at least hold a candle up to, you know, where he was at, that meant it's going to put me at the top in training. And so I was always in that top 3, like circle on the runs and the swims and everything.
What teams was Scott again?
I don't know. He was I think he spent a little bit of time on the West Coast and in the East Coast. The funny thing is I would always try and get him talking about like what life was like in the teams, and he avoided a lot of that.
Was he a Trident Squadron guy?
I don't. What's Trident
Like
Squadron?
the 6 guys? Was he one of those?
No,
No.
definitely not. He told me about how he had tried out for it at one point, and this is true, knowing just, you know, kind of how things come down the grapevine in the SEAL teams. It's a good old boy network, and so if you're not one of the good old boys, you're probably not going to get in. And at the time, I think there's a lot of animosity towards West Coast guys. It was like the East Coast guys, because that's where Team 6 is.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the East Coast guys are pushing through. And I mean, even to this day, when, you know, I was still active, you would hear about like Green Team, which is like the guys that are trying to class up into DevGru, SEAL Team 6. You know, you might have like 20 guys from the West Coast and like, you know, 20 guys from the East Coast. Like 18 guys from the West Coast come back, and almost all the East Coast guys make it, you know. So there is kind of a good old boy network to it. If anyone could do it, definitely would have been, you know, him.
Yeah.
But yeah, phenomenal athlete. He definitely got me ready in every possible way to make it through buds. And so a lot of buds, I don't want to say it was a breeze, but I didn't have to suffer nearly as much as it seemed like a lot of other people around me were suffering. But where they did get me was the cold.
Well, so that's what I was going to say. Like, go into phase 1 buds. It says, like, right when you get there, like, you were put straight into surf torture, which I guess they don't call it that anymore, but or they do.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's like politically correct. What are they doing?
Torture, that's
like
mean.
even with the SEAL Creed, like what is going on? The
Did
SEAL
that
Creed,
get switched back, by the way? Because there was a lot of controversy with you guys, and I know some of my buddies were pretty pissed off about that. Did they switch it back?
My understanding is Trump made sure that they switched it back,
Okay.
but yeah, they try to make it gender neutral.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so
Gender
you.
neutral. It's not the common man with uncommon desires, the common person. Yeah.
So you're.
I am not. It's not. I am that man. It's I am that sailor.
I am that person.
That was, yeah, because that was recently. That was like 5,
And
6
some
months.
SEAL out there signed off on that. Probably made it through a summertime hell week.
Well, but so like I want to go through that though, because you talk about how gnarly that was. But so phase 1 is like, let's weed out the guys that aren't gonna make it.
Exactly.
Put you guys through Hell Week, which is one of the gnarliest things I've ever heard of.
Yeah, Hell Week in a nutshell, 5.5 days long. You get 4 hours of sleep. That's not per night. That's 4 hours. That's it for the next 5.5 days.
5 days,
That's
yeah.
what you're going to get. You run over 200 miles, and you're not carrying just your own body weight wherever you go. You're typically carrying either a telephone log or a boat wherever you go. And most of the time, that boat spends its time on top of your head. And so it's literally rubbing and grinding through the hair, through the skin, in the top of your head. Everyone has this round, circular, sore, just bleeding bald spot. That's just a sore that keeps opening every time that boat's bouncing on top of your head. And if you ever go to Coronado, San Diego, you can always tell, you know, which guys are in buds, because you'll see these guys with a buzz
Got
cut
the little
walking around,
bald spot
but they
on
have a
it.
little circle bald spot on top of their head. And the pressure of that boat, it's pretty great. You know, I mean, there have been guys that have broken their necks underneath that boat. In a class before mine, a guy had broken his neck. Like, that was the story going around. And you don't have a dry moment. You're always dripping wet, and it's salt water and beach sand rubbing and grinding in all the unfriendly places 24 hours a day for those 5.5 days.
Fun sandpaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it messes you up. You are burning. It's like the weirdest sensation of you are so cold you feel like you're gonna die, and at the same time your skin feels like it's on fire. You know, and so on top of all this physical exertion and sleep deprivation, you know, looking back, it's kind of funny looking back on the hallucinations.
That's what I was gonna ask you about, because you talk about seeing Ninja Turtles because you're so sleep
Man,
deprived.
I was really into Ninja Turtles, growing up. And so, I'm paddling along, and guys see whatever, they see their own little things. Sometimes, when a guy's hallucinating, you have your senses about you. And so they're talking about what they see, and you could be like, no, dummy, there's no guy running his bicycle across the ocean right now. Like, what are you waving at? Because you see him, like, waving, hi,
What's up?
another guy just throwing a hand salute out into the horizon, like the dark horizon. Like, what are you saluting right now? And he's just calling out what he sees. The Statue of Liberty. It's like we're in San Diego, and he's just pointed out to the darkness. Like,
It's
right
crazy.
now.
Yeah, like sleep deprivation, like I was going to ask about that too, but you brought it up. But like the hallucination stuff is gnarly. Like, I've been sleep deprived a couple times doing some different stuff over the time, but
Hopefully you were on cruise control when you're up there.
Wasn't in an aircraft when I had some sleep deprivation. I was doing some other stuff on the ground at the time, but it's weird. Like when your brain starts playing tricks on you, and then I've had it so bad, like when I'm trying to go to sleep, when I've been so sleep deprived, it's hard for me to actually go to sleep. Like my brain starts playing with me when I'm actually trying to get rest. Like your brain does some weird stuff.
Because it's trying to figure out what's going on, dude. It's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you putting me through this?
You're in the fourth dimension. You
You unlock that fourth dimension, you just stop sleeping.
Yeah.
That's how you unlock
You're in an
it.
in-between world.
You really are, and like, I mean, I don't know the way God wired us sometimes, but it's a trip. Like when you start playing with your brain, and like, you had to go through that. You had to go through that. Mine was like kind of volunteer, but I guess I kind of had to go through it at the same time. But I remember one time I went into a challenge. We were doing a 48-hour challenge through the mountains, and I showed up without sleeping for 24 hours, and
Good preparation.
I became like the spotlight on the course. Like people like found out like really early on in the course that I walked into this course being awake for 24 hours, and people
you
were
were
like,
the hazard.
yeah, and people are like, who is this guy? And does he? And like basically, my buddy and I signed up for this challenge, and I got back from a trip late, and by the time I had flown the trip home, got in my truck, drive to the challenge, got to my buddy, I hadn't slept for 24 hours when I stood on that standing line. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this sucks. And I remember we started the challenge at the beginning, and they like start marching us out into the wilderness, and there's this field over here, and it looked like Friday Night Lights. And I remember like there was trucks and stuff, and like some sleds put up there. I'm like, I was working out at 4 a.m. in the mountains. That's kind of fun. I was like, wonder where we're going right now. And instantly, like, this put us in this course, and like we're doing burpees and pushing 100-pound sleds and carrying 100-pound weights, and 4 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold. I'm like, this is fun. This is normal. Yeah, okay, yeah, we're in this right now.
Hey, you're doing that.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get in here. Here we go.
Man, and that's how they started us. And then as soon as you finish that challenge, they gave you the first part of the course, and you disappeared off into the mountains and had to start navigating. Every time you completed a portion, you'd get a new part. But so you had no idea where the course ever ended or what challenge was coming next. And then sometimes you just show up to a frozen lake bed and like, all right, swim across that. And I'm like, come on, like I know there's something has to be real out here right now, but it's weird. And I remember that night I tried to get a little bit of rest because
like, oh look, a kitty cat, it's like a cougar. kitty.
Oh, he's cute. Oh God, oh David.
Oh look at, he's bringing out some watermelon out of my arm right now. This is so fun. For punch.
Matt, you were bleeding really bad.
Yeah, dude, I remember I was trying, like, because they say, like, depending on how you do, you can sleep in the course if you want to. And I tried to get a little sleep that night, and, like, my brain wouldn't turn off. I was like, oh, no, I broke my brain. I was like, am I going to be like...
I broke my brain.
I remember thinking, I was like...
I'm dying.
I was like, am I going to be this way forever? I was like, is this forever now? Like, I can't turn my brain off. I was like, oh, no. And I remember I finally slept, like, at the end of this whole thing, and I slept for, like, 16 hours straight.
Wow.
Like, just... my brain turned off for a while and repaired itself. But after Hell Week, how long do you guys get after that phase to kind of rest up a little bit? Like, what's your day like after
Basically,
Hell
it wraps up like Friday evening. The first thing they do is they give you your own pizza. You get a large pizza, and that was awesome.
Go to town.
Oh man, I finished my pizza.
So that wasn't a
Crushed.
hallucination.
And then there's some guys. No, that was.
And he's just eating there. He's like,
full Lost Boy status and Hook.
That's the thing too, is that when Hell Week is over, you're very suspicious because the instructors are always giving you false hope. Like, just a little bit further, guys, and then you're done. And then you get to that point, and you,
like, we're on mile 200, you liar.
You begin to learn that they tricked you.
Yeah.
Like, ah. And so when they said, like, Hell Week is secured, it's like, we're like, no.
You're like looking around. You're like,
Right.
What-
They're like
what's
holding
happening
up
next,
an
you
American flag, you know, like
Yeah.
class 254, congratulations, Hoey secured. And we're
Liars.
just, we're all suspicious. Like, we're not even
You're like,
celebrating.
Someone's
We're-
in the bushes
yeah.
right now.
And then they start loading us up onto a bus. Like, why are we getting on the bus?
Where are you
know?
taking us?
Yeah, exactly.
Your brain's playing
And
tricks.
we are like looking out the windows trying to figure out, like, all right, we're on the Silver Strand. And it seems like we're going back towards base right now, and we start pulling into base, and it's like you're not even believing it, you know?
This is a fake town.
They
built.
give you a
This isn't even
pizza,
it.
and you're just like, suspicious of the pizza. Like, what's going on?
If I eat this, do I have to do 900 more burpees? What's going on?
Was the raviolis in Hell Week?
Yeah. And I think it was only from my class, and my understanding is one of the officers that quit at that time ended up writing this whole diatribe about how evil and how wrong that was, because that was the thing that made him quit, and it was really unfair. And so I think it's probably about
That's super unfair.
third night of Hell Week.
That part's not in the book, the ravioli story, is it?
No, I
I
think you
imagine
do say
so.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah,
say
no, it
something
is.
about
Yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's a fond memory to
Yeah.
look back on. Yeah.
Because that's what he was like offering, like, oh, you're cold and you're hungry. We got some
Exactly.
nice warm truck and some
Yeah.
raviolis. You guys want some?
And so we're way out there. We're like probably 10, 12 miles away from base. And we'd already been up for so long, right? This is like we're going into the third night. And this is typically where anyone else that's left that's going to quit, they're going to quit probably like this night, usually second, third night. And so it's cold. It's February. We're not wearing a wetsuit. We're soaking wet. The wind's hitting us. We got nasty weather. And first they line us up on the shoreline, and we're looking out at the horizon as the sun is literally setting. And they say, all right, guys, start waving at the sun. And they want us to wave, And if you don't do what they want you to do, they're going to make you, like, really suffer. So you're just like, like looking at the instructors. They're like, keep waving. Like, like this. You're like, oh. So we're waving at the sun. And now they start.
Parade wave.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry.
So we're all out there doing that, right? At the beach, lined up. And then they start saying, all right, now start saying goodbye, son. And so we're like, goodbye, son, goodbye.
You're like, what kind of 5th grade stuff's going on out here
Exactly.
right now?
And so the sun's going down, and we know, man, it's only going to get colder and colder from here. And that's what they start saying, like the night is young, it's only beginning, and you're already freezing, and now it's going to get colder.
While they're sitting there in their jacket and pants, just all nice and warm.
And so, yes, and they're very warm, cozy.
Very warm.
And I mean, you're so cold that if a truck is like 20 feet away, you can sense the heat of the exhaust. Like, you can sense it if it hits you at all. Like, you can tell, right? Like, that's how sensitive you are to any type of warmth whatsoever.
Someone farts and you get warmed up.
They're walking by and they're like, is that warm carbon dioxide?
Oh, it's totally one of those Dumb and Dumbers where if someone's got to pee, just go. Just go.
Just let it go, man.
So how many times did you pee yourself in training?
Dude, I don't think we ever went to a bathroom. Yeah, you just go.
They're just laying shark sugar out there, too. No worries.
Oh.
Sometimes you'd be on a run and you really got to go, and
You just
class
get-
isn't stopping for you, so no matter what, Hell Week or not. And so you can sometimes tell when guys are going because all of a sudden you see this yellow water flinging out of their boot. It's like, oh, stay away from me, man.
But the night that you guys waved to the sun is when they brought the raviolis out
Yes,
to you.
and so that was very strange, and we fell for this false hope on this one. And so they start busting out these long tables, and it's almost like we're having a catered dinner, like these brown shirts, which is the class before us. They're getting everything all arranged and set up, and they've got these hot raviolis in like these like catering type like tin, things, and
Chad's like, Hell Week's not so bad. They feed you pretty good.
Yeah, honestly,
Right.
they should rename this. It's not that bad.
It's like a banquet dinner. This is
You should
this
call
is,
it. You should just call it a couple rough days with some ravioli in the middle.
And so we're waving goodbye to the sun. We're kind of like looking at this, like, oh, we're actually gonna get a real meal, because up until this point we've pretty much only eaten MREs like while sitting in the water. Like that's where you have to eat them.
nice salty MRE.
And so we're looking over and they're telling us, you boys are finally going to get your first warm meal and these raviolis, and they let us stand over them. They're passing out plates to everybody. We're like, oh, we're going to get it. And then they break it to us. Yeah, you want these raviolis? All right.
Quit.
Yeah, you just got to ring the bell.
Ring the
Just got to
bell.
ring the bell and quit. All right? We got hot coffee
That's so messed up.
in the truck. Yeah. And I remember standing next to this guy. I won't drop his name because he ended up making it through another class. Good for him. But this fella, he looks over at me and he says, Williams, let's quit, man. And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, what? No, I'm not quitting. He goes, I'm thinking about, I'm going to quit. Quit with me. And I'm trying to talk him out of it. Like, no. He goes, come on, just come with me. And it's like weird how the darkness, like they try and suck you in.
He's
Darth
breathing
Vader.
heavy. He's
Darth
like,
Right.
there's raviolis. What's wrong with you, man?
Chad, I am your father.
And so there's just something about that. I think that guys, they don't want to quit, by themselves. And it seemed like the floodgates would open. As soon as one guy would quit, out of nowhere, it's like, all right, you have whatever it takes to say, I'm done, I'm going to ring this bell. 5 other guys would come out of line to go quit with them.
Well,
so
you
it was
never
on
want to
their
be
mind the
that
whole
first
time.
guy to be like,
Right.
to give up. So if you see somebody else do it, you're like, all right, well.
Exactly,
Thank God
yeah.
I
So
can
it's
do
like a
it.
safe out.
Yeah.
And it's sad because all those guys probably really have it in them to stick around. But the attention's not all on them ringing that bell, I guess. That's the way they look at it. And so, yeah, unfortunately, he quit. And we lost a lot of guys that night to the raviolis. And my understanding is they never even got to eat the raviolis. They just had
you
them
quit?
ring the
You
bell,
didn't even get 'em?
put them in the back of the truck, and
That's shady, dude.
drove them out, right?
Oh,
Shady.
man.
And
A lot
so,
of shark food that night.
yeah.
Yeah, they're just hucking it out there. No, please don't. Actually, can we do torture training in the surf now that we
That
have warm
had to be
raviolis?
probably like a worse feeling too, because then you drop out, then you don't get your raviolis,
Right.
then you don't get your.
I
hot
was gonna
chocolate.
say, I was like, do you guys gotta maybe get a little jab and be like, was the ravioli worth it?
Man, that poor guy. He hit me up later. We stayed in contact for a while, and he ended up a couple years later getting to enter into another class, and he made it. Sometimes, you fail one time, and you know how bad it felt to fail then, right? Like, I've had situations in the past where I failed at something before SEAL training, and I would actually use that as a motivation, like how mad I was at myself that, in a sense, I rang the bell when I didn't have to. And so I think about how bad that hurt, and then I try and compare it to, how bad whatever it is I'm going through hurts, and if I do that thing again, quit again, like, how bad is that going to be? I think I'd rather die than do that again. I'd rather die than quit. It bugs me that much. And so you can use failures. That's, in a sense, how you can fail forward, right? And so we all, will fail and make mistakes along the way. No one's going to just get it first time, every time, all the time, right? Like, it just doesn't work that way. So that guy ended up making it. Great. So he made it through. But we lost a lot of guys that night to the raviolis. And that all led up to that paddle that we call Around the World, where I had those hallucinations.
Dude, and then I wanted to talk about the bag of food as well that they sneak on.
Yeah.
Because that was absolutely incredible, because you have to go through a checkpoint, and the instructor sits there, and it's a tradition, right? Where the
Yeah, you're bringing back great memories, because I don't always talk about this, right? Glad you did your homework, man.
So here's the thing. I mean, if food is wow. Come on, Devin. Bring it together. Come on. All right. If food is involved, I'm in it. So, but it's a tradition for the next class, right? The brown shirts to sneak food for you guys, because you guys are basically starving, sleep deprived. You don't even know what's going on at
So
this
it's
point.
the class ahead of you. You're a white shirt until you make it through Hell Week. The fact that you make it through Hell Week, then you get to wear a brown shirt. It's signified in that sense. And so it is that tradition.
What a trophy.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Like, oh, he has his brown shirt. Like, you have no
This is
idea.
so much better with my skin tone, honestly. Those white shirts were terrible.
I was just over at my folks' house, and they have some of my old stuff, and I came across one of those brown shirts, and I remember just like, it's just a brown shirt now. But I remember like what it was before. It's a brown shirt,
But so go through the part where you get pulled out and they're doing an inspection.
Yeah.
You guys threw the bag out of the boat into the water so it would
Right.
float, so you could come back and get it.
So yeah, the tradition is that prior class, it's a cat and mouse game. They're not supposed to be doing this, but it's a tradition. They can't get caught by the instructors. They're supposed to try and sneak some type of food onto our boats. And so they're going to throw us some Gatorades. We got these white powdered donuts, I remember.
Yeah, this is the
and,
best
it pays to be a winner. We are in a race. And at the time, my boat crew was like up towards the front. Like, I think if we were not in front, we were competitors. We were close. And so it pays to be a winner, and we're coming up on a checkpoint. But now this big old like lawn sack black bag gets thrown into our boat, and I'm hallucinating. I thought we were being attacked.
Yeah, you thought they
All
were
right.
ninjas, yeah.
Yep, I thought they were ninjas. And so I am screaming, and I am getting the guys psyched up. Like, I'm confusing them. I'm screaming, the ninjas are coming. They're like, they go from normal to like, suddenly they start believing, like, are there ninjas coming? And dude, these guys are coming out of nowhere, like all in black. And I'm like, it's the ninjas. And so I'm like ready to swing my paddle, and I'm trying to like hit this guy as he's trying to like get into the boat or something into the boat. And he's like, what's wrong with
trying
you?
to help you.
Yeah, and he's like, chucks this bag into the boat, and then we all just like stop, and we're like a bunch of monkeys just like around this thing. Like, yeah, who is it?
What is this?
Yeah, who opened first? And so, we start opening it up, and one of the things that comes out right away is these white powder donuts. So now we're just done paddling, and we're just like, just dead in the water, floating, spinning around. And all these other boats that were behind us, they start passing us and like looking over at us. They hadn't gotten theirs yet, right? And we don't even care. We're going to be in dead last. And so we're dead last place, and we don't want to give it up. So we decide as we're paddling in and we're about to check in with these instructors, like, yeah, let's just like toss it over the side, and then we'll take our beating, and then we'll go right back to our little bag. And so we go in, and this is in, the San Diego Bay, and there is a lot of lighting near the shoreline. And so we're landing up on one of these like mother's beaches where the instructors are going to be linking up with us at this check-in, and we're standing there, at the ready position. And this instructor, he's laying into us and beating us down for being in last place. We're just taking the beating, and then he's inspecting our boat, and he knows there's contraband on this boat somewhere. And so I remember it was Instructor Simons. He's like, "Where's the contraband at, Williams?" And I'm like, "What contraband, Instructor Simons?" And then he takes his finger, and and as we're all like standing at this sort of like this ready position, I'm looking around at the other guys, and I see like the white powder all over their face, and like they're looking at me like, "You got something on your face." And so we're like, "Oh no." And so I'm like thinking like, oh my gosh. And so he takes his finger, puts it on my face, and gets all the powder on his finger. And he goes, "This is what I'm talking about." He goes, "What's this?" And I just had
Salt.
a moment. I'm like, wow, looks like dried up salt water, Instructor Simons. And he liked that. He's like, okay, like he knows, he liked that.
Smooth.
And then meanwhile, he's facing me, and I see right behind him, coming up on his heels, that black bag full of everything is bobbing and coming in. And I mean, it's landing right behind him. And he knows it's somewhere, and he's looking all over in our boat, and he can't find it. Eventually, he gets over it. He cuts us loose, and we go dragging the boat back into the water. I'm reaching down, grabbing the bag, throwing it back in.
Nothing to see here, instructor.
And of course, we're like in last place all over again. But we
I
we
got all
loved all that.
Gatorade, powder, donuts.
They're having their own little catering party out there.
They're
His
just-
own ravioli moment out there.
That's so funny. I was dying when I was reading the part where he just wipes it off your face, and he's like, "What is this?" And you're like,
Must be salt.
"I don't know. That's crazy. How'd that happen?"
And then Chad was known as the Ginsu Master too, and that's after Hell Week.
Oh
Yeah, third phase.
Third phase.
yeah. You got some kind of special privileges for being.
Yeah, so they caught wind, the instructors that I used to work on sport fishing boats, so they know that I know how to cut fish. And so that's one of the things they like to do out at San Clemente Island is in their off time, go fishing, and the fishing is amazing out there. It's like world class. You can catch bluefin, yellowfin, tuna, albacore sometimes, and then all the, halibut and calico bass. And so, these instructors, they're slaying it. And they'd wake me up in the middle of the night. Well, they would, first of all, before we went out to the island, I was approached by one of the instructors and asked about my filleting fish abilities. And I said, of course, I'm good. And he goes, all right, I want you to make it a part of your kit. I want you to start bringing your blade. This is a 14-inch Forstner blade, all right? And
It's a small samurai sword.
Yes. And the sheath on it is like the type of sheath that, could protect your finger if you run your hand across it. But if you fell on this thing, it's going through and it's going to go into your body.
on your notepad.
Right.
Right? You're like,
And so I'm like, how am I supposed to get this on my kit? And so I'm just like zip tying it in. And this thing's like always dangling around. And I wasn't allowed to tell any of the other guys what it was all about. So they're like, Williams, what are you bringing that samurai sword with you for? So,
No one getting near
You're like-
Williams
Yeah.
ever.
yeah, you're like, do something stupid. You're gonna figure out what the samurai sword's about, all right?
And man, you are dropping down, rolling around. You're hitting the ground a lot in training, and so that was always a concern of mine. Like, this thing is going to get me in the side, one day. And so the deal is that he worked it out with me. Anytime I say Ginsu Master, when you guys are in ranks, you need to jump out of rank and file, and you need to pull out your Ginsu blade, and you need to say ching, 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 and wave it in the air. And so I'm not allowed to tell the other guys why I'm doing this either.
They're like, look at this
Yeah.
loser.
He's sleep
Pulling
deprived
on-
again.
They looked at me kind of scared, like,
Right? They're like, this dude is unstable.
Yeah, he's about to turn on all of us. So that's
Williams is the next dropout.
Yep. Then when we get to the island, and we're all lined up, and he just goes, "Gensu master," and I jump out, pull out my knife. Guys are like, "Whoa," and I'm just doing my ching, ching, ching. And so I get woken up in the middle of the night, probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's got all this fish. They went out fishing that night. They killed it, and he just wants me to fillet it. So I'm filleting the fish and taking all the fish guts and carcass and all the leftover, throwing them into these 5-gallon buckets. And then I would take all the leftover, go down to the beach, and just dump it off. And the deal was, the special privilege was, if I did this, I could use my phone card to call home for 5 minutes. And so I'd use that to call my girl. And of course, she's not awake at 3 a.m. This didn't work out for me.
Just a bunch of voicemails.
I was like, come on,
Honestly,
pick up.
Honestly, this fish deal that we got going here is really beneficial to you, but I'm not getting these phone calls that I want. Can we do this at like a 8 in the morning thing? Or is that, how's that work?
And so one night, he says, "Hey, don't worry about all the guts and carcasses. Just leave them there in the bucket." And I'm like, "Oh, that's weird."
I forgot about
I'm
this.
like, "I got this. Don't worry. I'll dump it for you." He goes,
this is
"No,
a brutal
I want
story."
it." I go, "Oh, he probably wants to save it for chum. They're probably
You're
gonna go
going
shark fishing
again. Yeah.
And so
Well,
it's
did
like,
you
all
not?
right. So a couple nights go by where these 5-gallon buckets get filled up and they just disappear. Well, we know that at some point in SEAL training, the 5 nautical mile ocean swim is coming up. You know that's happening. You just don't know when. And so instead of just me getting woken up at 3 a.m., the whole class is getting woken up at 3 a.m. And we all know this has got to be the swim. So they're going to load us up on a bus. They're going to drive us probably about 6 land miles away. And then we got to swim these 5 nautical miles. And so before they do that, though, they bring us into a classroom. And so we're in the classroom where we're normally learning about like safe blast distances or, how fast a 5.62 millimeter round, goes out the chamber. But now they're showing us a PowerPoint presentation about the swim we're about to do and the history of San Clemente Island. It's like, oh, okay. So they're showing us like,
Sweet,
here's
this is
where we are. Here's where you guys are, going to go in the water. And they're showing us these coastal shots, and it looks beautiful, and San Clemente
Like, this
Island.
is a good class. We're having fun.
The marine animals, sea lions. Look at that, And then suddenly the dismemberment, right? And then how San Clemente Island is a breeding ground for sharks. Yes, aggressive sharks, even great white sharks and blue sharks and mako sharks. And now we're watching video of people being attacked by sharks. And now we're seeing people that have been decapitated by sharks.
Like this class is getting really weird.
Yeah,
really
this
quick,
is getting
guys.
weird.
Hi, instructor. This one started really strong, and you guys are not.
You're losing us
You're
right
losing
now.
the crowd. You're losing the crowd.
Gonna have to put that on the Yelp review.
Yeah.
How many
Did
guys are in
not
the
finish
class
strong.
at this point?
So now we have what's called roll-ins that have come into the class. So these are guys that were not original to 254. And so I'd say probably somewhere in the vicinity of like 40, 50 guys. And
Because
so
they went in they fell out after Hell Week due to
Well,
a medical or something, right?
they didn't so much fall out. It was more of like they made it, but they made it on, nothing. Like their leg is broken. And so we're going to give this guy an opportunity for his leg to heal because he never quit. He hung in there. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
so they will just kind of wait in limbo. They call it rollback land.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get rolled back into another class. So that he might have been class 250, and then finally he's healed up enough to rejoin 254. And so we're all together watching all this, and now we're about to go do this swim. Like, all right, that doesn't bother me. I already knew there's sharks in the water. I've seen this kind of stuff before.
I've watched Jaws,
All right, Shark Week,
Totally prepared.
whatever.
Shark Week, Discovery Channel every week.
Mm-hmm. And so we're lining up, and we're on the grinder. It's like an asphalt section where normally we're doing our morning workouts. You're, grinding out the workouts, and there's the bus. And usually it's important to be a volunteer. If they say, volunteer, you immediately raise your hand. Well, just as he's saying, I want 10 volunteers, I'm about to raise my hand, and I see at his feet, I don't know, those buckets, I recognize them.
That hamster wheel up top
Yep.
started spinning. He
This
was
is
like,
a bad volunteer job.
He's like, he's retying his hands behind his back like he's in the pool.
He did that. Yeah. I don't know about this one.
And so, 10 hands go up, and he goes, you. Come over here, lay down. And so they lay down. They have no idea what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. He picks up those 5-gallon buckets, and
Chad,
this is just
This is
stuff
like
that's been
weeks old,
sitting
too.
there, yeah, for days.
Chad's like, I haven't cut fish in a couple days. Huh, okay, we'll see how this goes.
Just not even like the fear of sharks, the smell
Oh,
of
it's
just
awful. Yeah. And so they're laid out, and of course, he just starts dumping it. He's dumping it all over, just covering these guys in it, right? And so these guys are standing up, and they're like in a panic. I remember one of the toughest guys, the toughest guy in the class. This guy could take on 5 SEALs at once. He was a mixed martial arts fighter. He'd go to Mexico and just fight, for fun. All right, so
let's wrap back around to Chad having a little bit of dark humor. Bring him back around. Bring him back around.
And so we would, if we got in a class wrestling match, he could sling like 5 guys off of him, And so he's coming up to me.
He's
like,
Samson right here.
He is Samson, but now he's scared. He's Samson with a buzz cut, right?
He's Samson with a buzz cut.
He's like, hey, Williams, you used to work on boats, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, we don't got anything to worry about, right? Like these sharks. And we're just pulling up to the cove where we're going to be getting dropped off. And I'm like, you see that cove that we're getting dropped off in? He goes, yeah. I go, I've anchored up in that cove before. We used to use the island as blockage to, from the swell overnight, and we would cut fish overnight. I've anchored up in that cove, and we'd be filleting fish. It wouldn't take any more than 5-10 minutes before our boat was surrounded with sharks. I'm like, stay away from me. And he almost cried. He's like, oh. He did like, oh. And so now he's trying to rub it all over everybody else. He's grabbing guys and like rubbing it on them. Like, yeah, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. And so, oh man, that was one of the scariest swims of my life because it was the dark hours of the morning. We didn't have light for probably a couple hours. And I just know, like, this is a cove where there are sharks. It does not take long. And by the grace of God, nobody ever got attacked by any sharks, but surely they were there. And that is one of those things where if they did that to every class, it would be in the news. Someone would get attacked.
Right,
that was like Russian roulette. They spun the chamber and got lucky that time. Got lucky.
Yeah.
But just a matter of time, they kept doing that before someone get attacked.
Have seals been attacked in that phase? Have any of you guys? Not like the seal animals, you guys.
Not that I'm aware of, right? We had sea lions actually on that swim that were getting pretty brutal. I've had a few run-ins with sea lions in the water.
You had one on a diving mission not too long ago that grabbed you, right? When you were
just lobster diving. Yeah. Grabbed me by the arm, and I didn't know it was a sea lion at first. I just feel something grab me and start shaking me underwater. I'm on a breath hold. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, flashback to all the times I watch Discovery Channel. They always talk about how I didn't feel the pain at first when I was bit. I just felt pressure. That's what I felt. I'm thinking I feel pressure.
This is the pressure. Oh, no.
And so it's like bone crunching pressure. And I'm just going to fight for my life now and start swinging this light that I have for lobster diving into whatever it is. And I'm smashing in the face and the nose. And I see these giant eyes. It's just a huge sea lion.
He's like
a huge one, right? Like 500 pounder. And there's this huge relief, even though I'm still being held down by this thing. Like, it's not a shark.
It's not a shark.
Yeah.
Did he come and lick you after, like the dog?
No, he was very aggressive still. So once he finally did get off of me, and I pulled out my dive knife, and those things are smart. They recognize those. When you point a spear gun at them, they know what's up with the spear gun. Someone has pointed a gun at them before and shot it,
Yeah.
They're like,
and
that's that pointy thing that flies really fast. We don't like those.
Oh, your
boomstick.
The boomstick.
Yeah, we're not fans of those. We don't like those.
Oh, this guy brings a gun to a fist fight.
Hey,
Okay,
come on, bro.
all right, brother,
Come on,
come on.
So funny thing with that sea lion is, I don't know if I shared this part with you, but I saw some other divers that were like a couple hundred meters away from me.
Yeah, you told me
And
about
so-
this, but he doesn't know about this.
So the sea lions, they know how to find you because you're all lit up. And so they like to use your light to hunt at night. And so this one turned on me. He's territorial. He's very aggressive. And now he's harassing me. He won't leave me alone. So I'm swimming.
He's calling you names.
And the whole time I'm swimming and looking down and I'm kicking and I'm using my light, he is like right below my fins. And he's just like trying to get an angle on me somehow to get to me.
He's Chad with you. Basically,
And
this is Chad in the pool with you. The sea lion's doing this.
Hey, how does it feel?
I have this realization that I don't need to get this sea lion to leave me alone. I just need to get him interested in somebody else.
Chad's
And
sixth sense of
so-
humor kicks in.
They're attracted to the light. They want to use the light. I start swimming towards these guys and bringing the sea lion with me, And I don't know who these guys are. I happen to be there diving my same spot that night.
Chad's pet sea lions with him.
So I'm swimming towards these guys, and I probably get about 50 feet away from them, and then I shut my light off, and they don't notice me at all. They're just so into whatever they're doing. So I shut my light off, and I'm kind of looking around. I can use the phosphorescence and see that the sea lion is not around me anymore, and I'm watching them, and I think it's just a matter of time before he gets on them. And I'm watching these guys. They're just swimming around. You see their light going normal, and all of a sudden I hear them like, they come out of the water. They're like, whoa! Their light's going all over. It's like, it's attacking me. I was like, yes. He's on them.
He's just swimming by, but like, later. Have fun. He's
Chad's got a
now.
full belt of lobster. He grabbed their lobsters that they already got.
That's awesome. So you're at that point now. You're kind of getting towards the end, which there's 3 phases, right?
Right.
So you're kind of getting towards the end, and the end of training's pretty gnarly. Like, I mean, I've seen the sniper school where you have to hide in like plain sight, and if they find you, like, you fail. Which you guys kind of have the same thing, but it's more swimming. You have to swim certain distances, which you have to know your kicks, how far that's going to take you,
Right.
and you have to come up, set a fake charge, go back down, get out without being detected.
Yeah. And most of that second phase stuff, yeah.
Oh, that is second phase
Yeah,
too.
combat diver stuff. And so you're doing that San Diego Bay. Yeah, so they already know what your final destination is, and you enter the water. You're going on a 2-hour dive on a thing called a Drager. It's a rebreather device. And the whole saying with the Drager is you don't dive a Drager, you survive a Drager. There's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah, they're kind of gnarly.
Yeah, Dragers are nuts.
Because you can get the
Caustic
poisonous-
cocktail.
poisonous
Yeah.
gas that happens.
Oxygen
if they-
poisoning.
Yeah.
You would think, 100% oxygen, that's good for you. It is on the surface, but when you start diving down atmospheres, it becomes toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all kinds of things can go wrong. And the symptoms that you're supposed to be looking out for is like irritability, twitching of the facial muscles, ringing and roaring in your ears. And so, yeah, you're looking over at your buddy, and you guys are both like twitching and hating each other
guy's like,
underwater.
You're like, hey, I don't want to like say that you might be messed up, buddy.
And it is funny because you really do get super irritable when you have oxygen poisoning, when it's starting to set in.
They're
like,
actually just steroids.
It's-
You're like envisioning taking out your K-bar and just taking this guy out next to you. And then as soon as you get like on land and you start like breathing normal air again, or like refreshed, you feel really bad.
Put your
and you're
K-bar
like,
back.
hey man, I gotta tell you something. Like,
I wanted to rip your
Yeah.
face clean off.
yeah, he's like, me too, dude. I'm so sorry. I love you, bro.
I'm like, dude, we're
I love
buddies,
you.
man. That's so awesome.
Yeah, next dive.
Yeah. SEAL training is great.
Yeah.
This is so fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything is awesome.
So it's the exact opposite of hypoxia. With hypoxia, you just laugh and everything's extremely funny.
Sure. Yeah, it's different than being narc.
Yeah, you go the other way.
You
and
go,
you're like, I'm gonna-
you go underwater and it just
Yeah.
gets really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Above land, you just get really laughy and funny, and
That's
everything
wild.
becomes great.
Yeah, this is like the fog in his goggles is bothering me. Why doesn't he fix that?
That's funny because like
Why is he kicking like that? Why is he doing that?
your stroke sucks.
His
your
hand
stroke
is limp right now. Why is he doing that?
I'll break that wrist right now. I don't even care.
Whereas the other side on hypoxic, when we go hypoxic training, that's lack of oxygen, and everything starts becoming euphoric, and like there's like ways to sense it. You're like, you might start laughing, everything becomes funny, like it's a good time, but you're just losing oxygen to your brain.
Yeah.
So when
low key, just dying as well. No
when,
worries.
When you have less oxygen, it becomes funny. When you have too much oxygen, you just want to kill everyone.
Yeah.
So it's a fun way.
Your brain just gets superpowers, and it's like, I'm indestructible.
Again, God did some funny things when designing that.
Right.
So wild. But so you get through phase 2, you go to phase 3, and that's more like, you said that was more like classroom style, right?
No, you always have a lot of classroom stuff before you go out. Like you got to use your brain, and that's in second phase too. You start learning dive physics, and it's kind of intense, for a guy that dropped out of junior college because I didn't want to do schoolwork. It's like, well, turns out I got to learn this stuff now. But you have a passion for it now. You actually care about it because it means that I'm going to understand like how this all works as a Navy SEAL, and if I don't if I don't pass this test, I fail SEAL training. So that kind of like competition aspect of it like made me very motivated to begin to learn. I was really paying attention. But second phase, you start learning a little bit of SEAL stuff, combat diving. Third phase is where you really start to learn a lot of SEAL stuff. That's where you really start putting it all together, and it ultimately all coalesces on, what we call an FTX, final training exercise, where you're putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Where you go full John Wick mode, and
Yes.
you're just able,
Yes.
just able to just do whatever you want.
Right.
Should have never killed my dog.
Should never killed him. Hey, you mess with a man's dog, you're gonna be in for something. at the
Dude,
end
that's
of the day.
where you cross the line.
Yeah, you
Don't do
cross
it.
the line if you killed someone's dog.
So,
So don't kill any SEALs' dogs. Got it.
Yeah.
and after third phase, after you graduate BUD/S, you haven't made it. You're not a SEAL yet.
Yeah, you still have to go through
SQT.
Yeah, SQT, yeah.
SEAL qualification training.
And that's another like 3 months, right?
Like 6 or 7.
Oh, is
I
it
think,
that
if I remember correctly.
I had no idea because it says I think in the book 20 months after you go to boot camp is when you
Pretty
completed.
much, yeah. From the
I had no idea that's how long
There's
SEAL
one,
training
There's
was.
one. It's Buds and SQT. There's one more in there, isn't there? Isn't there?
after
three?
SQT, that's it. But part of SQT is you wind up in Kodiak,
That's right.
Alaska, doing
Yeah.
cold weather training.
Yeah.
Oh, and you had to do a little land navigation too, which you were.
Yeah, with Kodiak
Ex-
Bears.
But
Yeah.
you were an expert in the land navigation, right?
Man, that goes
I
back
had to give him one. I had to give him one.
to this day. My wife gives me a hard time. We're driving somewhere. You were a Navy SEAL?
You sure?
Yeah.
So Fallujah wasn't your best navigation spot.
No.
Just, well, not too many landmarks out there, believe it or not, in the desert.
Well, Fallujah's known as what, like the red triangle? That's like the triangle of death or the
Yeah,
red
the triangle
triangle.
of death, yeah.
that's a.
Like in War Dogs, when they go through it and they're getting gas, and the guy's like, Fallujah bad, Fallujah bad. That's you guys the whole time.
Now, were you a Christian by the time you went to Fallujah?
Yeah, in
You were.
Iraq. Yeah.
Yeah, you were, and so
It was like right after you kind of graduated, right?
So it could probably be compressed a little bit like that. It was March 14, 2007.
Well,
I was
it
a
was-
SEAL by December 2005.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was a little down the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of trying to remember because like, did the Euphrates or anything that click in your head, like biblical stuff, when you're like near the Euphrates and things like that?
Well, it wasn't like an Israeli tour. I didn't have the
Yeah.
guide, pointing out certain landmarks.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of speculation.
Yeah.
Everyone would, have their idea about what that well was and what it meant. And I tried to do the best I could to research and understand and know, but I was pretty preoccupied too.
But in like Revelations, it talks about like the beasts in the Euphrates, like they'll be released from the Euphrates. So
Yeah.
like very evil stuff comes out of the Euphrates as well. Not just the Garden of Eden coming out of the Euphrates, but like some of the end time stuff will rise from the Euphrates. So it's always like when you mention that on my side, like Scott hanging upside down from a bridge in the Euphrates, like there's some like definite crazy stuff that could possibly be coming out of the Euphrates at a certain point,
Yeah.
biblically speaking.
Maybe
so.
maybe that's what it is the people drink the water over there, and that's just.
It's definitely quite a landmark, and I didn't even thought about that. That's the bridge he was hanging over has some biblical proportions to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you ever go through? Was that bridge with the swords? The two big.
No, I didn't. I think it's in Baghdad.
That's in Baghdad,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Are those still there? Do they get
No, they pulled those
those
down.
pulled down?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that photo?
Uh-uh.
It's what's that road called? It was like the King's Road. It's like two giant arms with like huge swords. They were probably like 100 feet tall.
It's
These,
something Hussein had. I
yeah,
think,
these
put up.
giant arms with swords just crossing the road. There's a lot of famous military photos that come out.
Yeah, I'm
from
sure that's a pretty easy military
Yeah.
picture to get there. It's probably a sword, bro. Yo.
But you ended up doing 3 tours total.
Basically, yeah.
Basically 3 tours.
Philippines and Iraq were primarily like the big deployments.
One,
wait.
one we won't speak of here
Sure.
anymore. Yeah.
Sorry, I need to go back to where you finished. You graduated.
We're all over the place. It's great.
I
though.
know. I'm sorry, but
No,
this
that's
one,
fine.
Yeah.
this one I have to bring up because I was dying reading the book. So you finish, you graduate SEALs, and you're officially a SEAL, but you kind of have like, I peaked. This is it,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of went into like a little bit of a partying phase,
Mm-hmm.
and you were downtown, had a good night, and you kind of stumble on some cops.
Yes. So at that time, I'm thinking I'm in the best shape of my life. If there's a cop that wants to apprehend me and, this is as close as we are, this is as close as we'll ever get.
You ain't gonna catch me.
Yep. I can run. And so, I was rounding the corner. All the bars were closed. I'm stumbling around, inebriated. I think I lost my shoes. I lost my shoes and sandals a lot. I can't tell how many times I wind up in a place and have to get another driver's license, get another military ID, get another,
Guys, I lost it again.
And so, stumbling around, I turned the corner on Main Street. If you guys know Huntington Beach, Main and PCH, I'm walking south. I'm right by Jack's. And as I round that corner to the left to go inland, there's 2 cops that are just kind of walking and doing their patrol, looking for guys like me stumbling around inebriated after after closing time. And so I turn around right away, in my mind, like almost thinking like, did they see me? And then I hear them yell at me, "Hey!" And I realize, oh no, I'm gonna get drunk in public. And so I just decide to run. And so I just go bolting across PCH and I'm running towards the pier. And they close the pier at night. So you can walk on the pier in the day, no problem, but they have a fence there at night. And so they're running after me, and there's that fence there, but I mean, that's just part of the obstacle course. That's the high wall. And so
I do this with 80-pound gear on. This is easy. I got no shoes, lightweight.
And I am running down that pier like just what's that guy? Life is a box of chocolates guy.
Forrest Gump.
I'm just running down that pier like Forrest Gump.
He just kept running.
And I was so inebriated at the time that I remember like almost borderline having like a little bit of a weird like hallucination moment because I got the lights on the pier and I suddenly became like an airplane and I'm going down the runway, right? Like that's how it felt, like the lights going by.
Yeah.
And I literally just kept running. Woof.
Did you go all the way down?
All the way off the
Past
end,
Ruby's?
behind Ruby's.
Dude, that's legendary, and you
Yeah.
just sent it full dive off.
Sent it, and I swam out. And I just like learned not that long ago how to do what we would call a box dive, right? So the box dive, the idea behind it was to, swim out for pick a certain amount of time. I picked 5 minutes. I'm going to go out 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go left 5 minutes. And so I go the out and the left. These guys, I left them in the dust. And huge surf that night, too. I
These
remember.
cops are like, what kind of freak of nature did I just reveal?
Right, and then like the guy's on Superbad, and he's like, he's the best in my life. He is the best in my life.
So I'm in jeans. I got my wallet in my shorts. My phone is wrecked, and I wind up, just on the shoreline, on the south side, and
Good surf always on the south side of the pier.
Right?
And he's coming back in, just body surfing
But I
back in.
wasn't anywhere near the pier by the time I was coming in. Thankfully, the current was working the way I needed it to work too. It was taking me.
He's at the
even
jetty
further
in
south.
Newport.
How did I end up back at the pier? Oh, this is a different one. Never mind.
But I remember just like winding up on the shoreline, laying there in the sand, just like, oh, all right, I got away, I'm good. But now I gotta get back, and I know they're probably gonna be looking for a guy. I definitely stick out, and so I'm doing the best I can to use whatever alleyways I can use and go like trash can to trash can and get back. And I start kind of getting a little tired, I think, or something like that, because this is where the night begins to fade.
Dun, 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 dun.
So that's kind of like one of the last memories I have of that night, is like trying to get back through the alleyways, and then all of a sudden I'm waking up and I hear like birds chirping and the sun coming through like a windshield, and I'm like, oh, I'm in a car. I'm like, oh, how nice. Like, who picked me up? I wonder who picked me up in this alleyway. And I'm like trying to figure out, like, I don't recognize this car at all. And so then I start going to the glove compartment, and like it says something in Vietnamese. I'm like, oh no.
I don't know this.
I broke
guy.
into this car. So here I'm soaking wet in somebody's car, right, that I broke into. And I go crawling out. Sun's there, like the gardeners are like looking at me like as they're doing their thing. And I'm like stepping all over my wet jeans, walking home barefoot. And
Gets out of the car and he's like, how are you?
exactly, they're
like-
looking at me like, what is this guy doing?
What kind of superhero just came out
Yeah.
of this car?
All right.
Aquaman?
Oh man. And I remember getting home, and I was putting my family through a lot. I had a lot of inebriated nights like that where they're like, where is he right now? And so I would use their house as a crash pad whenever I was in the hometown. I remember my mom, I'm getting there, opening up the front door, and she's like, where have you been? I've been so worried about you. And it's like, oh Mom, I had the time of my life.
Mom, I'm a fugitive.
Yes.
The seals were great to me.
I'm a fugitive, Mom. It was awesome.
I think Chad was like meant to be a Navy SEAL though, and it's funny like outside of the SEAL part, like I relate to Chad with a lot of just like the way he thinks and his challenge and stuff like that, and going through sports, getting over them, going through sports,
You
getting
like
over.
running from cops too?
Yeah, it's been a couple times on the Harley. Anyways, but like your incident at Disneyland is still one of my favorite ones. Like you guys hiding in the bushes at Disneyland and sneaking
Yeah.
into the park, which your buddy's done the same thing. And
Yeah,
snuck in
he
the
did
grad
it. He
night.
did it at Knott's Berry Farm.
Farm,
but-
yeah.
Yeah.
His buddy got escorted into the park by Knott's Berry Farm.
He
Into the park.
yeah, he hopped, like he was backstage, like where obviously you're not supposed to be.
Grad night.
And yeah, it's a high school grad night, so it's nothing but kids running around. And so one of the security guards sees him and he's like, hey, what are you doing back here? And he's like, my friend can get out of anything. Alex,
Yeah.
if he listens to this, he literally can get his way out of anything. And he's like, dude, I'm so sorry, I'm back here. I was about to be jumped by a bunch of dudes, and this was like, I found my way back here to run away from them, and like, I'm sorry, I can you help me get back in there?
Oh, you don't belong here. You
Yeah.
belong with the kids over there.
All those kids that were gonna
Thank
beat you
you,
up,
sir.
let me take you back to
Yeah.
them. Yeah, so he literally got escorted into the park after jumping the wall illegally.
Now he works at a theme park. Now
Yeah,
he works
now
at
he's-
Universal Studios as the Mariner in the Waterworld ride.
He knows all the tricks.
Yeah. Now, what was your alias? Can you say what your alias name was that you're banned for life under?
Oh, I think it was like Octavio or something like that. Like,
Sick
I was
name.
going out there with it.
Sick name. Octavio.
Yeah.
They knew I was lying.
They obviously haven't linked that.
Yeah.
To
But
present
I
day.
didn't have an ID on me. And one of my friends, she actually ended up taking the hit big time. He got felony charges that night for trespassing and banned from Disneyland for life.
He still hasn't gone
And we
back.
went to Disney jail. There's legit a Disney jail where they lock you up. And like once you're in there, there's no getting out.
And it's just Mickey's like, haha, you guys messed up.
Sorry for the inconvenience, folks. Your parents will be here soon to pick you up.
How do you like that jail cell, you losers? nah, that's not what I thought Disney jail was gonna
Yeah.
be like. This is weird, man.
Isn't it underground? Like they take you down the stairs or something like that?
So a lot of it is a blur, but I just do remember like being sat down and having the whole like gate cage like closed, and it would only open up like automatically when they would hit a button, and I would see like opportunities at some points to maybe go for it, try and run. But at that point I knew like I couldn't put my left foot in front of my right. I was just way too out of it. Like if I ran, I was gonna face plant it. Had too much.
Were you 18 when you did that one?
Yeah, I was probably about 18. Yeah,
That story's in the book, I believe.
I don't know. Yeah, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Those were-
Disneyland story?
Yeah, he stays in the park after hours.
Yeah, we
and
snuck
they-
a bunch. First, we snuck a bunch of alcohol into the park, and then we're by the Matterhorn. They have a bunch of like trees and bushes over there, and they closed the park early for grad night. And so it closes probably around like 5 or 6 o'clock, and we're camping out in the bushes, just waiting for it to get dark. They do a final sweep of Disneyland, like they have security go through. They have dogs. Like that was scary. Like dogs are going through. Like this might be the moment we get caught. So the dogs are running through, doing their little thing, and then it starts turning into grad night. You can hear the DJ. He's starting to practice and play. Yep. You start seeing laser beams like going around and like the spotlights and then you can start to hear the kids showing up, like the crowd. They're not let in yet, but they're like, "Are you kids ready? Class of 2002." And they're like, "Yeah."
Mickey's like, here we go, guys.
You guys ready to party or what?
And so meanwhile, we're just waiting in the bushes and just drinking and drinking and drinking. And then finally it's time. They release all the kids and it's like a marathon, right? Just everyone running. And that's where we're just jumping out of the bushes. And now we're one of them. And the first ride that we went on was the Alice in Wonderland ride. But we didn't like...
Oh, yeah, this is where you...
And we're on the Alice in Wonderland, and as we're going through, and we've had a lot to drink, and we're really tripping out. Like Alice in Wonderland is already a trip, and now we're like, whoa. And I don't know how, but I ended up outside of the
car.
ride. Yeah, I'm out of the car, and I'm wandering around in Alice in Wonderland.
Obliterated.
Yeah, and I see like my friend, like he's kicking over like these rabbits, like just knocking things over. And next thing you know, all the lights turn on. Boom, music stops. And
Sorry
it's
for the
like,
inconvenience, folks.
There's a couple of jerks kicking rabbits. Bro, that's us. Whoa.
And so now we're trying to get back in our little car, but the way that seat, it latches down, it only gets tighter. It doesn't get looser. I pushed off of it when I was getting out, so it latched down. So now I can only get like to my knees in. And
And the security guy comes by, he's like...
He's just got lumbar support now. He's like, ow,
So we're like
back.
sticking way out, only to the knees, and we're just looking straight ahead. And here comes one of the workers, and he's got a policeman with them, and they like are like stopping right on us, and we're just looking ahead, And they go, "Hey," and we're like, "Huh? Us?
Me?
Something wrong?
And they're like,
What happened?
"Hey, you guys are out. You know what you did. We saw it all on camera. You need to come with us." And we're like, "No,
Hey,
it wasn't us. Not us."
He had flashbacks.
I missed a ride.
He had flashbacks of getting stopped at the checkpoint. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
No idea what you're talking about.
And so he ends up, getting us, and so we're all lined up and walking out. And for whatever reason, I got probably about 3 or 4 friends in front of me, And the police officer put himself between me and them. And we're walking on these tracks, right? It's Alice in Wonderland, like tracks. You got to watch your step.
Doing the walk of shame by all the other high school kids.
Right? Yeah, all these other kids are like, what's wrong with you? It's like...
The teachers are like, this is why you don't
Yeah.
drink alcohol, kids.
You're ruining it for everybody. And so we're walking, and I just think to myself, like, man, we're going to get in so much trouble. And I don't know what came over me, but I decided to push the cop over. And so I push him over. He falls on the track. And I yell to the guys, run! So this guy's going down, and we're all bailing. We're running.
Took one for the team,
And
buddy.
it was on for the rest of the night.
The
It was
chase was on.
it was the cat and mouse game. We were getting separated. We were linking back up. The police officer would recognize us, and we'd like run. You know, we at one point, huge fountain over there by Mickey's Playhouse. I'm sure it's still there. Literally doing circles around the fountain. He's on one side,
This
we're
is
on
like
the other.
something out of a
And he's
movie.
like, and all the other high schoolers are watching, like, just give up, give yourself up, like
shut
stop
up,
it.
little kid.
And other ones are like cheering for us, like, let's go. And
I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Seven, Dad!"
and so he'd go running around one way, we'd be like on the other half, and he'd be like, stop, stay right there.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right.
You got me this
Yeah.
time. I'm gonna do it this time.
And so as the night would go on and we would continue to drink, you know, your senses, you know, they kind of go downhill, and guys just started getting picked off. Boom, boom. Like, hey, where'd so-and-so go? I don't know, he just disappeared. And so we all linked up in Disney jail.
Final rally point there.
Dude, by the time they got me, I think I was like over it. The sun was about to come up, and I was like sleeping on one of their green metal benches.
Oh,
Like,
you made it good.
yeah, and they're like, oh, there's one of the guys, grab him. And I'm like, oh, you know, they're taking me away.
Like, oh, it's about time, guys. Come on.
But I just would not give them my real name, and I didn't have my ID on me.
Did
And
your parents have to come get you, or how'd you get out?
they ended up just getting over it and letting me go. But my other friend, like, he squeaked. He talked too much, and he legit got a felony trespassing ticket. And he was always mad at the rest of us. You know, I took the hit for all of you. It's like, no, you gave him your name,
Bro,
dude.
you ratted. What do you mean? You were the rat in the group.
You were a snitch, but
So he would give me a hard time sometimes. He'd be like, you would have never became a SEAL if I didn't take the hit for you, because you would have had this on your record and you never would have got a chance. I'm like, don't put that on me.
Don't put that on me. I just
like,
knew how
hey.
to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, you're like, hey, but did it happen? Nah, I got away.
Dude, honestly, if like I was Mickey Mouse security or those cops like chase, I probably would be laughing the whole time. If I was chasing drunk high school kids like that,
Right?
I'd probably stop and laugh at one point. But guys, this is pretty funny.
Like, hey, I gotta applaud you.
But at the
guys.
same time, you
Like,
pushed me over the
Yeah.
track and I got to get you.
Yeah, I gotta get you.
At this point, I'm tired of chasing you. I don't want to run anymore. But hey,
It's crazy how like they have like so many undercover units in Disney too. Like I had a Disney person one time walk up to me and just like flash her badge to me. I'm like, who are you? Like, you're in street clothes, like, and your badge has a Mickey Mouse on it. I'm not really taking you too seriously on this moment.
Just
right?
bought it at the gift shop.
yeah. You want to see it? Yeah.
I remember one time my buddy. I mean, we were 28 at the time, you know, and
So
we were.
this was like a couple years ago.
Yeah, we were drinking a beer walking into the park, like prior to getting in. We were drinking a beer, and this lady just comes up and flashes a badge at me, and I'm like, "Can I help you?" And she's like, "You can't bring that in the park." And I was like, "Well, I'm not in the park yet." Remember, she like escorted me to the trash can, but she didn't take it. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna finish this here." Here we go.
No, you're right. I can't bring it in. Let me chug it and be hammered in your park.
Disney is sneaky, man. Those guys have like, they got some like CIA stuff going on.
They round
there.
us all up eventually. They
Yeah,
did.
they got cameras everywhere.
Right.
Because there used to be a game we played. We would see how long we could stay in the park after it closed. I think the best I made it was to like 1:45 in the morning, and it's pretty fun because you can kind of figure out like where to be in the park, and you just keep walking around. And the last time we got caught doing it, the security guy was actually really cool with us, and we played super dumb. He was like, "Hey, the park's closed." We're like, "Oh man, yeah, I thought it looked kind of empty," and they just escorted us like right out the gate. But they weren't pissed; they were just like, "You guys got to leave," and they just walked us all the way down Main Street out of the park. But we played for a while, and we ended up there to like 1:45 in the morning, cruising the park, and it's pretty like as much cameras are there, like you can get away with quite a bit in the
Yeah.
park too if you know what you're doing. Now, like you post Navy SEAL, like you could probably stay there all night. I'm pretty sure you could probably hide in there.
Yeah.
He's got full camo on, like popping out of bushes. Like he's in the Finding Nemo ride, like coming out. Just not, your eyes don't even open when you come out of the water, like the SEAL movies.
He's on the submarine ride, just cruising next to us.
right. He's in the water.
Got all the garb on in a small world. It's a small world after all. Dressed
God,
up like they got the Taliban in there, I think, you know? It's like,
Taliban. You guys are really brown.
He blends in so well.
When you were operating overseas, you guys are allowed to like grow your hair and beard out most of the time, right?
for the most part,
'Cause you
yeah.
guys
Nothing super crazy. If you were like in Afghanistan, you can get pretty bearded up.
Yeah.
In Iraq, I mean, you could probably go a couple weeks or so
Yeah.
without shaving. No big deal.
Because you guys, you don't really wear normal camis either, right? You're trying to blend in a lot on a lot of your missions too.
So on the majority of our operations, we were wearing like our own sort of digi camis.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's kind of like unique to the teams. We had this special stuff. And then
Humble brag.
on that final operation though, the ISOF wanted us to wear their uniform, so we dressed up like we were Iraqi Special Operation Forces. And I still got those uniforms, which is kind of cool.
Really?
Sick
Yeah.
Halloween costume now, huh?
I don't know.
That's pretty cool. They let you keep those, huh?
Yeah,
That's a great souvenir.
it is.
So you got a bunch of T-shirts and a bunch of souvenirs out of becoming a Navy
White
SEAL.
shirt, brown shirt,
Brown
some
shirt.
Iraqi.
Some Iraqi guy's uniform. Were they used uniforms by any chance, or did you get new issued?
I think they actually were new. Yeah.
He's like, can I confirm or deny? Actually,
This one
confidential.
smells a little different.
Yeah, right.
I did not find my size though. I remember like whatever I had was a couple sizes too big. So I was totally that guy that just like looked like he's wearing giant clothes.
You're like the gangster guy, all baggied out.
Yes, exactly.
But a lot of-
super baggy pants.
A lot of team guys outside a couple, a lot of the guys I know, you guys are all kind of similar size, I've noticed. Like everyone's kind of, you guys aren't huge guys.
Right. I mean, I think it kind of works against you if you're a real big guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Stand out
because
the
it's a lot of wear and tear under those boats, and so it definitely helps to be a smaller guy. I remember when I was going through BUD/S, we do everything by height line.
Oh yeah, this was funny too.
And so, man, I was probably like somewhere like ahead of like 30 guys in the height line, which was like, I thought pretty cool. I'm not like the shortest guy.
Yeah.
But as we went through Hell Week, we started losing a lot of the smaller guys because of the cold. Because that's where the cold really gets the smaller guys. That's why I suffered in Hell Week. And I wound up being in that like last group of 6. So I ended up in the lowest. They do boat crews by Roman numerals. Was like a boat crew 2, 3, 4, 5. But the smallest one isn't. It's not 1. It's just a Smurf.
You're the
It's a
Smurf,
Smurf.
Yes.
the Smurf crew.
And so we're the Smurf crew. So I wound up in the Smurf crew.
Did you ever end up being in the boat where you were short enough where you didn't have to hit your head on the boat? You just kind of blended in underneath the
No,
boat?
'cause-
it was on everyone else's head.
Everybody else is tired. You're like, dude, I don't know. This is fine, guys.
That
No,
boat
take the
crew
touch of the
actually,
boat.
it didn't work out too good for me because I barely made it into the Smurf crew, which meant I was one of the taller
Oh,
Smurfs. Yeah,
man, you needed
yeah.
to be in the next boat crew. That way
Yeah.
you didn't have the bald spot on your head. You just kind of cruised underneath and acted like everything's normal.
Right. No, the instructors will never let you get away with that. And your fellow, classmates will not let you get away with that. That's really frowned upon, is they call it ducking boat, if you try and take your head off the boat. Because, when you're going through training, the instructors even say this, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's the whole game. It's cat and mouse. You could try and cheat us. If you're supposed to drop down and do 20 push-ups and they turn their back and you're like on 15 and then their back's turned and then instead of doing push-ups, you just start going 16, 17, 18, and they look at you, 19, 20. Like, that's the game, right? But if they catch you doing it, then everyone's going to pay. So you might get away with it 5 or 6 times, but that 7th time you get caught, they will hurt you so bad that you will judge it basically saying, I wish I never got away with it. Those 5 or 6 times they made it so bad. So during Hell Week at one point, they always want us to get, as they call it, a fresh coat of wet on, which means you're dripping wet. It's not enough just to be wet. You need to be dripping wet all
Fresh
the time.
coat of wet.
Wet.
And so they have this
It's a
huge
t-shirt.
berm that you run up and over. It's probably like 15 feet high, so you cannot see what's on the other side of the berm. And so they send us to go get wet from one side of the berm. We go up and over. We get wet. We come back. We're dripping wet. They inspect you. All right, good to go. Well, we realized that, they're not following us up and over the berm to make sure we get wet. And one guy had this idea, why don't we just dip our hats? So take the hat off. We're already pretty wet, but take the hat off, dip in the water, throw it on your head. It'll be dipping. Yeah, dripping. And we'll run up, and the instructors will look at us. They'll see that. We'll get by just fine. So we started doing that, and we started getting away with it and getting away with it and getting away with it. We're not jumping into the water anymore. We're just doing our hat trick.
But now you're getting drier and drier
Yeah.
on the
The rest of
Well,
you's getting dry though.
Well, it's nighttime, and you're going to be wet for hours still, But the instructors follow us up and over one time. We didn't notice. So he watched us. And we ended up getting surf tortured after that so bad that it would have been well worth it just to have jumped in the water every single time. And so if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But the one time you're not supposed to cheat, for sure, is when it hurts your boat crew. You could cheat against the instructors, but if you're cheating in a way where you're taking your head off and putting more weight on your buddies, that's very frowned upon. That's bad. So they call it ducking boat. And like ducking boat is like the biggest piece of turd you could ever be. You don't want to be someone
you're the
that gets
scum.
labeled with being a boat ducker.
You're a scum.
Yeah, it's like it shows up on the resume 30 years later. You were a boat ducker.
Oh, it
It's like
says
being
here,
a scab in the
That's too
union.
bad.
Yeah, it says here you got 10 years of experience.
Yeah.
Oh,
We liked you. You were our guy.
boat ducker
Ducker.
though.
Yeah,
we're
global
gonna have
enterprise,
to-
millions in your future, but you're a boat ducker.
Boat Tucker. Now, kind of wrapping it up on this one tonight because we've had fun. There's a lot more we could talk about, but
And we'll come back on.
we'll come
Yeah.
back on. But on a short stint, like, what was it like being an instructor on the backside? Was that a cool fulfillment of being a SEAL?
So
like
full
finishing?
circle.
Yeah.
So awesome to see that from the other side, and just like, wow, like that's crazy. I remember going to, we put one class through Hell Week. I was an in-dock instructor, but it's all hands on deck. All the in-dock, first phase, second phase, third phase instructors when you're going through a Hell Week, because instructors will go on for shifts. I think it's like 8-hour shifts a piece, so 3 8-hour shifts. And so you would go do this 8-hour shift where you're running around, harassing the guys the whole time, making their life miserable, and you're showing up fresh. And they'd already been out there maybe, for 16 hours, and you're giving them hell. And by the end of your shift, man, you're exhausted. And so you're going back home.
This is tough work.
Yeah. And so I remember driving over the Coronado Bridge, like eyes playing tricks on me, like laying down, living in Pacific Beach. And then as I'm resting there, about to go to sleep, I think to myself, like, wow, those guys are still out there right now. That's crazy.
Just
I go to
going
sleep, I
through
wake
hell.
up, have coffee, and then like the sun would be up, be like, man, they were out there that whole night going through that. And now I'm like going back in, and now my shift starts all over again. I'm fresh, ready to go, and I'm giving them hell, going back, like, and then after doing that a few times within the same week, like now it's like the third day, it's like, dang, they're still out there, just going.
You're
It's
like, I went through
wow.
this.
Yeah,
I did this.
I was in the fourth dimension the whole time. I didn't realize just how long. I was definitely in the dark realm.
It was,
in the
it was
dark
nice
room.
being on the other side serving the ravioli.
So we didn't do the ravioli thing. That really did get eliminated. But it just gave me a much clearer picture too of like SEAL training, from the other side. Like, that's insane what we went through.
Did you ever catch anyone cheating the instructor and you caught him, but you kind of let him slip a little because you're like, yeah, I know what you're doing right now.
Yeah, you're either a heel or a hugger, as they put it, And so I would fall into that hugger category, though I don't give hugs. But
Don't touch me though.
I didn't really enjoy it so much, Like, actually, even if a guy was going to quit and, I'm giving him a hard time, and I could tell there was a part of me that had empathy, thinking, like, this guy's making a decision right now he's going to regret for the rest of his life. And it just killed me inside to see that. But at the same time,
You got to weed them out. That's the job.
exactly.
Because when you guys are in combat, you got to.
Right.
There's
you
a
can't,
fine line
You
there,
can't get
yeah.
that guy an easy pass sometime because he might be a link on the team that's going to hurt you guys when
Exactly.
you guys are in combat. And so, I mean, and I think that's what's hard, and pray to God that we never get participation trophies to special operations, because I mean that's just going to be a whole new mess of things.
I don't think
Yeah.
it can get to that point.
I hope
Well,
not.
they're changing
Yeah,
everything
they're
in
changing.
that creed,
Yeah,
right?
and that's scary to think about that, because I mean people are downplaying what war is. People are downplaying war's violent.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of our history. It's been a part of us since the fall of man, and we've had war ever since. And but I mean, just to know that you've been part of an elite squadron, that you served as an elite squadron, like holding that creed to make sure like that never gets lost. I mean, that's an important part, because I mean our foreign military is trained just as hard too, and have just as bad people on the other side that can fight just like we can.
Just as?
No, you guys are the elite. But I mean, they have their special operations, but then they go over there.
It's
But
like,
you're,
whoa.
yeah, but I mean, you guys go and train. You guys are the best in the world, and it would suck to see a participation trophy. But I was just wondering like how that is as an instructor, because like that guy has it in him, but you also know at the end of the day he might not fully have it in him to
Right.
be what
And
it takes to be a SEAL.
Next time we're on, we could talk about how sometimes it's the most phenomenal athletes, like truly the most phenomenal athletes that don't make it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that don't make
there's
it.
like you have to be a certain breed. It's like you could be in the best physical shape of anybody, but there's a mental part of that that's like certain people are just born with that, and then certain people just don't have that.
We can get into that next
Yeah,
time.
we'll
I don't
do
think.
that.
I used to think that way. I used to think that way.
I think that way, like, but you can unlock the part. There's those guys that, like, don't have it, but you can unlock it. And then there's the people that just don't have it.
Imagine someone that was just born into royalty, eating at the king's table, silver spoon, has a super easy life, and then suddenly at some point in their life, maybe in their 30s, like everything always came easy to them. They're just serve. And then all of a sudden they come up on something where they're going to have to face some real adversity. Is that person going to be able to handle that situation? Or I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think if they haven't faced difficulty in their life and then when it hits them, it's going to rock their world. And we see that all the time, like people that, live in that super upper class and are always used to getting served, and then suddenly something doesn't go their way. What happens to them? They fall apart. They lose it. You didn't bring a lemon out with my water? Like it like really gets to them. And it's comedy, right? It's like something that makes it on TMZ. It's like, you can't handle that? You can't handle just getting treated like a normal, like a casual? Like a normal person. Like, yeah, like something didn't go your way. Yeah. Meanwhile, there are people that, have had to fight for everything growing up from the very beginning. And so you throw some stuff their way, and it's like they've got calloused hands, right? They can handle this. They've been through this before. And so with that, I think what that shows is that mental toughness, just like any other muscle, your mind can be trained and developed. You develop mental toughness the same way that you develop toughness on your skin, toughness within your muscles. It's all through exposure to things that test your mental toughness. So you have to stretch it. That's how you get into this whole mind over matter. Your mind literally has to overcome the physical matter. So when the matter says, I don't like how I feel, this is very uncomfortable right now, you hop in a cold shower and like your body will say, get out. What's going to keep you there? The only thing that will keep you there is your mind. And when you're in that place, that's kind of the magical place where the body, the nerves, the physical wants to escape, but the mind says, no, we're staying here. That is the realm now where mental toughness can begin to get developed. It's kind of like the whole no pain, no gain. You got to have that pain, mentally. And so the more that you prepare and you go through things that are just miserable, as we call it in the SEAL teams, embrace the suck, do something that sucks, like every day. That's what a lot of SEALs will say. The more you put yourself into that miserable state, the more you develop mental toughness, so that when you're actually called upon to have some mental toughness for something, you are all the more prepared. Whereas that other person, they got soft hands, they got no callus there.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It could be developed.
Yeah. Embrace the suck.
I like that one.
I like that one.
That'll preach.
Yeah, that's a preach.
SEALs actually have a couple of quotes that were pretty funny. But all right, we're definitely gonna wrap it up. But I had one more question, because you were supposed to go be the guys on the Somalian pirate boat.
Yeah, we got
picked. You were sent there. Well, you were the first team picked, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, chronologically, I think that we were the first ones that got called up. We were over there sooner.
And then the sandstorm hit and you got stuck, right?
We got held up in a sandstorm. And we just came from a place. So SEAL Team 6 ended up getting the gig. But I remember I'm on SEAL Team 7 in the chow hall. We see on the news this whole thing about the Somali pirates. I was the dive LPO. That means I was in charge of all of our dive equipment. And so I had like a whole almost container ship, a container on those container ships full of dive equipment that I'm bringing with us to Iraq, and everyone's going to be a hard time. Williams, what are you bringing all the dive equipment to Iraq? We're going to dive in the dirt? I go, you never know, man. And so, sure enough, this is going on, and I'm like, dude, we're going to get called up for that. And I got all the dive equipment. I'm ready to go. So I'm thinking we're going to do something like an over-the-beach kind of hit, or we're going to swim up on these guys. And so we're actually preparing for that. And then it turned into, you know what? It looks like we're not going to get to go after those particular guys, but these guys are just really the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch of these pirates, and they're on like a mothership. And so we're going to hook and climb that mothership, and we're going to go take them on. We're going to hit them. And so we're excited for that, and we're training and getting prepared, and then the whole plug gets pulled. And we're upset, because we're like that canine in the back of the cop car.
Ramped up, ready to go.
Let me go, Dad. Let me go, and so now they pulled the plug on it. And what we were told, it was Obama at the time, is that he did not want a third world conflict or the appearance of a third world conflict. So there's a real problem right there, but we're not going to address that problem. We just act like that problem isn't there and it doesn't exist. And that's really weird to me, because that's not how you solve problems, right?
Yeah.
It's like if
You
there's
don't
a
avoid
problem,
the problem.
yeah, you
solve
need to
it.
address it.
Yeah.
So he played politics, and you got Iraq and Afghanistan going on. He didn't want the appearance of a third world conflict, and so just act like it's not there and bring no attention to it, and it's not happening. Meanwhile, these guys are doing awful things to people. So we got called out back to Iraq. Yeah.
Man.
SEAL Team 6 got all the glory.
Yeah, they always get all
They always get all the
Yeah.
good stuff.
All right. Well, I mean, dude, we could continue to go on for hours probably because I still have a million questions, but we'll definitely have you back on because this was awesome. And
I appreciate you.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
I
It was
it's
fun,
been
guys.
I know it's been a long day. You had a cool opportunity today, so we'll see how that comes with some other stuff in your
Yeah.
future, and hopefully we get to catch up with some cool stuff here in the near future as well. But thanks, and maybe we'll go back to the pool with him next week or something.
Nah, we're good. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll do a workout at my house next week.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right.
Let's
All
do
right.
it. Awesome. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
thanks, guys.
And we'll see you guys next week.